And whilst high pressure is staying with us throughout the forthcoming week as well, we're going to continue to see this easterly breeze pushing its way in. So generally, eastern areas staying on the slightly cooler side and western areas faring best for those temperatures, but there'll still be a fair amount of sunshine around to enjoy. Bye-bye.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything, I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. In an hour, I'll be joined by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Has a better picture at last. And also GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. I'll be mucking the week in a few moments' time with comedian Lewis Schaffer. But before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you very much and good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. ITV says it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. The broadcaster says they were questioned after hearing rumours, but both men denied they were seeing each other. The TV presenter resigned yesterday after admitting he had an affair with a young male colleague, which he described as unwise but not illegal. He told the Daily Mail he lied about the relationship to his wife, colleagues, friends and agents. Mail on Sunday journalist Charlotte Griffith says people in the industry must have known.
There was a video of him having lunch in a cafe with this young man, although I think he was 18 at the time. So it was the worst kept secret. You have to take him at his word. You know, Holly must have asked him about this. People around him must have asked him about this and he must have lied. That's what he said and that's all we know right now.
GB News presenter and former This Morning host Eamon Holmes hit out at his ex-colleague, saying he's finally been caught out. On social media, he said 4 high members of ITV management knew what sort of man he was and never once took action to prevent him controlling or taking advantage of his position over young people. Showbiz reporter Ellie Phillips told us Phillip Schofield's actions were more than inappropriate.
He's saying it's not illegal, but it's also about an abuse of power because Phillip Schofield is was the face of This Morning in a massive position of power. And then you've got a runner who, in the scheme of things within the scene, you know, within how it works behind the scenes, is much lower down the rung in terms of the power. So it's about that power imbalance, I think.
Air passengers have been voicing their frustrations following a nationwide border control system failure. Thousands of people trying to get away for the bank holiday are facing delays following a technical fault affecting e-gates. The Home Office says it's working to resolve the problem with the electronic system which is operated by Border Force. The UK's biggest airport, Heathrow, says it's trying to manage queues and is working with authorities to fix the issue as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, passengers at the port of Dover are also experiencing delays following earlier IT issues at border control. Apologising for the disruption, the port authority says the problem has been fixed and the queues are improving, with wait times for cars under 30 minutes now and coaches around an hour. Now, a man who was arrested after a car crashed into the Downing Street gates has been charged with making indecent images of children. The 43-year-old was initially detained on suspicion of dangerous driving following Thursday's incident. Officers were later seen searching the boot of the car before it was towed away. He's been remanded in custody after appearing in court on the unrelated offence and will reappear next month. Former First Minister of Northern Ireland, Arlene Foster, believes the DUP could do a deal with Labour as it works to restore a power-sharing government. Speaking to Gloria De Piero, the GB News presenter says a coalition could be formed if the next general election delivers a hung parliament.
Would it be fanciful to even think that there could ever be any sort of agreement with the Labour Party and the DUP?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And I think there is quite good relationships with the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, the Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Peter Kyle, and indeed with Sir Keir as well. So no, not at all.
You can watch that full interview with Arlene Foster on Gloria Meets tomorrow at 6 p.m. Now, a 6-year-old boy who's climbing 12 mountains to raise money for charity is preparing for his final hike. Oscar Burrow from Lancaster, who was inspired by Sir Edmund Hillary, said he wanted to be the youngest person to climb Everest. To help him achieve his goal, his dad tallied up the peaks, which include Snowdon and Scafell Pike, so that they'd be a similar height to Everest. He's due to climb Ben Nevis on Monday and has already raised more than £30,000 for Derry and House Children's Hospice in Chorley. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Tatiana. It's coming up to 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time to muck the week. Well, what a mucky old week it's been. Let's kick off with Phillip Schofield. I mean, where do we start with this man? There was his admission of his sexuality live on air, fair enough. Then there was Q-Gate. and now an affair with a young man, one which he described as an unwise thing, but not illegal, which he had initially denied to his bosses at ITV, and more is coming to light every few hours, it seems. It's like rats leaving the sinking ship. He's been ditched by his employers, his agent, which he owns a share in, his friends. I think even his lawyers have scarpered. He's pretty much lied to everybody. Awful man. I mean, time, methinks, to ditch the toxic This Morning brand and just get rid of the show altogether. But we move on to some more trans nonsense. And as a trans woman, so a biological man, breaks the female park run record. I mean, what a surprise that a biological man has eclipsed the record of a female athlete. Only it isn't a surprise, is it, that a mediocre male athlete can beat the women? I mean, that's the whole reason why we separate the categories in this way. It's about fairness. And politicians still can't help themselves. I mean, you had Ed Davey saying that definitely a woman can have a penis, which was nonsense. There is no way I will vote for a politician who cannot say what a woman is. He obviously knows what one is really. But what part of his brain says that a woman can have a penis? A woman does not have a penis. It's ridiculous. There was, however, a light at the end of the tunnel in the world of female British cycling, where it declared that trans women will not be competing against women. And finally, in the world of music, one of my absolute favourite of all-time artists, the only woman I can sing alongside, has died. The incredible Tina Turner. Now, I attribute my... Now, you see, Tina Turner, that's my favourite song. I can do that. I'm a private dancer. Doesn't sound the same when I do it. When she does it, if I do it alongside her, it doesn't sound right. But if I did it without her actually doing it, then you'd think it was good. But yes, Tina Turner, I attribute my first ever job in radio to her. Because when I was asked, who would you have to take for a meal, dead or alive, and why, I said Tina Turner. And it turns out that my boss at the time, that was his favourite artist. So I got the interview, and in the end, I got the job. So thank you, Tina. It's been a mucky old week. Right, so this is what's coming up in the next hour. Stay tuned. Comedian Lewis Schaffer will be making light of this week's top stories in Muck the Week. And then at 3:20, it's climate control. Just stop oil protesters threw orange paint over a garden exhibition at the Chelsea Flower Show. Makes no sense. To demonstrate against climate change, but are you getting fed up with their antics? I mean, why would you do that at a place that's all about sustainability? It makes no sense. Then at 3:35, I'll be delving into the world of AI technology. A pioneering AI system has helped a paralysed man to walk again after being confined to a wheelchair for the past 12 years. I mean, could this change the face of neuroscience? Stay tuned at 3:45. It's this week's Political Spotlight. Now, who remembers this?
It's only the chairman who can remove people from a meeting. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
She's just kicked him out. No, just a minute. No, she's kicked him out. Don't. She's kicked him out.
Oh, that was funny. Well, listen, Jackie Weaver shot to fame after the jaw-dropping council meeting went viral online. She'll be joining me live to tell me why she does indeed have all the authority. That's coming up in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. And, of course, it's gbnews.com. How could I forget? It's great, isn't it? Right, well, joining me now is stand-up comedian Lewis Schaffer. Lewis, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Nana.
God, Nana.
Nana.
Did you call me Nana?
I call you Nana.
It's Nana.
And I'm Schaffer.
OK, Schaffer. So, Lewis, talk to me. It's been mucky. Phillip Schofield. Well, I mean, this is a right mess, isn't it? Look, I don't know Phillip Schofield. I've never met the man before. I don't wish any ill to him. But he's a liar, isn't he? He's been lying about everybody. Everything.
You know what? I don't understand you people. To me, this is a nothing. This is a non-story. Because basically, of course, he had a thing. A man had a thing with another person. A married man had a thing with another person in the office and then lies about it. Is that news? I think you're making a big deal about it. Do you have something against... A lot of people must have something against Phillip Schofield.
I think a lot of people do, actually, for the way he's treated a lot of them, actually.
Yeah, well, that's what I've heard.
Nice.
So, in the end of the day, you've got to be nice to people. Otherwise, something like this comes out and they look for anything. Do you think this is a something?
I do, actually, because, of course, the person in question was young, but it wasn't illegal. That's fair enough. But it just seems that I think there's more information coming out to light. And the fact that he lied to his employers, they both said that there was nothing going on, and there was. Yeah. And then, look, it's not in isolation. Let's not forget Q-Gate, where him and Holly, they weren't meant to be there, but they were. They went to view the Queen.
That's what you call a fallacious argument.
Is it? What do you
mean
by that?
It means that you're bringing up something that's not related to the issue.
No, it is. That's all part of it.
Okay.
This is a catalogue of things that have suddenly led to his demise.
So you don't, right, I apologise. So I've been doing a little research on fallacious arguments. And
that's why you got that in. I like
it. I wanted to get it in, apologise. Yeah, okay, people must not like him. I don't think there was anything wrong with the queue. He's a famous person. Why shouldn't he go to the head of the line? And he was probably invited to the head of the line. They would have definitely stopped him if he shouldn't go there. If they said to you, and you're a pretty girl, you've always had.
You always say this, Liz. What do you want?
Yeah,
what do you want from me?
You know what I wanted. It's only one thing, and it begins with an S. No, you know what it's like. You're a pretty girl. You go to the head of the line. Or you're a nice person. You go to the head of the line.
David Beckham's a pretty man. He queued for 8 hours.
He's evil.
He's not. He's a good man.
He's evil.
How is he evil? What's he done?
He's evil because he did it deliberately to be a great guy.
You wouldn't wait for 8 hours like that just to be a great guy. And he talked to everybody in the queue.
Yes, and it was like massive publicity for brand. I mean, he's not evil.
But that's good, though, isn't it?
Can I say that I was kidding?
I know you were. Because you're a comedian.
Don't say that.
Eventually something.
Let the audience decide.
You will eventually, but I think we've already decided.
I know. Next time, don't introduce me as a comedian. It's too much pressure.
Now, we move on to this whole... There's this big trans argument about men in women's sports. Of course, they're trans women, but they are ultimately men. Now, there was a park run, and the record for the park run was held by a woman, and then suddenly, years later, it's beaten by a trans woman, which was obviously a biological man. And then you have politicians like this saying things like this.
The vast majority of people will have the same gender as their biological sex, but a small number won't.
So a woman can have a penis?
Well, quite clearly.
So can a woman have a penis?
She can have mine. Was that appropriate at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? The answer is, you know what it is. It's about being... I personally... This is just between me and you. I agree with you.
Absolutely,
100%.
I thought so.
100%.
Can a man have a vagina?
I agree with you 100%. But there are people out there who believe that it is possible. They believe themselves that it's possible. They also believe that they want to be nice to other people who want to be nice to other people to go along with it. Does it kill people to be nice? That's what they're
Well, but it's not true, is it, though? So it depends whether you're happy to lie to keep somebody, to pacify somebody, or whether you're not. Yeah. And I never have been. I'm not the kind of person that would... If somebody said to me... I remember one time I was working in a shoe shop in Debenhams, actually, when I was young. They fired me in the end. It was only a Saturday job, but I was too busy. I got out on a Friday night, and on Saturday I never showed up. But they were really nice about it.
Welcome to my world.
They said, oh, we really like you, but there's no point having a Saturday job if you never show up. But anyway, what it was this woman, I worked on the shoe store, and this woman put these shoes on. They were like 2 bands at the front. And she goes, oh, how do I look in these? And I looked at her and I said, it looks like you got 2 bandages on your feet. And that was the truth. They did look like 2 bandages, but it probably wasn't the right thing to say. So I'm somebody who would probably say what I think.
Right, but remember, most people... or a lot of people in this world don't, and they want to go along to get along. That's why we're having this problem, because there are all these women in the park run who are saying, I'm not going to run with this woman, with this man, whatever you want to say. I'm not going to run with this person. And they're not saying it because they want to be nice. So you have to, maybe I'm saying on the wrong channel, but you have to understand what the thinking is in the world today, is that these people are trying to be nice.
But in the long run, it's not nice, is it? It's not nice to the women who have trained all their lives to do these things, like in sport. Thank goodness women cycling in the UK have now decided that, no, a trans woman cannot compete against a woman, because sport is about comparing bodies.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. It's usually, it could be your weight, so they might have, like, boxing, it's about weight. In other things, it could be about height, it could be about this. But we are comparing things that are similar. And if you then start saying, OK, well, a man can compete against a woman in a specific event and call him a woman, then it muddies the waters. And why would a woman want to compete in any sport that would open up to trans women?
Well, like what's
the point of training?
Exactly. But there are women who are very small, who can't compete. Look at how tall and beautiful you are. You've got advantages over someone who's short.
In what way, though?
In what way? Your legs, my mother would say, your legs are so long they touch the ground. That's you have an advantage.
But it depends. If I was playing sport and there was, you know, you had to have a leg, whatever size or length your legs were or something, that would be fair enough. It's not fair for women to have to compete against men, even because the man thinks he's a woman. He's not.
I agree with you. But first of all, let me just say this. Let me get this out, because this is the most important thing, is women should not be running. It is so unhealthy for women to run these kind of distances, 3.5 miles or 5 kilometers. They shouldn't be running. It prevents fertility. It lowers fertility. It lowers...
Where are you getting all this from? How do you know that?
I'm making it up. But,
I knew you were.
It sounds reasonable. You can Google it right now. It's not good for you. Exercise.
I don't think it's good for your knees.
I'm saying it's not just for women. Nana.
Nana.
Reminds me, I'm talking to my grandmother. Nana, it's all people should not exercise. They should make running illegal.
I don't like running, I'll be honest with you. It's bad for the knees, but
any
actually,
form of exercise.
for the cardiovascular system, it's very good. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth. And finally, she's simply the best. Tina Turner. Oh, my God. She's a legend. She was a legend, wasn't she?
She is a legend, especially for you women. You women love this woman.
I love her.
Because she represents everything that you would like to be. A boss lady who was a tiny little girl and basically abused by a man, and she did it all herself. And then late in life, when she was old, she met some other guy.
Oh, lovely woman.
Yeah, and this other guy gave her his kidney.
I know, that was lovely, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't lovely. It's evil.
Lovely,
Imagine reverse that.
No, that's lovely.
Reverse that.
He kept her alive for longer.
Imagine if
How could you say that?
Imagine if Phillip Schofield got this guy that he was seeing, who was much younger than him.
No, we're not
to give a kidney.
No, you can't.
You don't think that that's evil?
No, it's not. Listen, I think it's a generous thing to give away one of your organs to somebody who you love like that, especially, you know, giving away kidney.
To a 77-year-old woman who's about to die.
That's his wife.
You know, he still has a long life ahead of him because he was so much younger.
You can still live on one kidney. I know people who have one kidney.
Do you want to know something? As a person with stage 3A kidney disease, which is Lewis Schaffer.
Have you?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
I do. I mean, it sounds worse than it is, but I still have it, and I go to the doctor. The NHS has been amazing to me. Maybe that's a bit too personal. I don't know whether
carry on. Yeah, go on, carry on.
Right, is that you need each kidney, because maybe you have 2 kidneys. If 2 kidneys are working well, but if one is at 50%, the other one is 50%, then you eliminate.
Well, it depends. Listen, I don't know about that. You don't know about that. I know somebody whose one kidney is perfectly fine. He's a young lad and he's living perfectly healthily. You only actually, I think, specifically really need one. The second is backup. And if you can give it to somebody that you love to keep them alive, I would.
That's initially. That's initially.
You
would do that.
Anyway, Tina Turner, legend or not legend, she's a legend.
I would say Tina Turner is amazing. Some of those songs, River Deep, Mountain High, is one of the top 10 songs ever made. But at the same time, I think what she did with her husband is wrong.
Shut up.
Were you expecting that?
No.
Were you expecting that?
So anyway, so when are you back? You're on Headliners. When are you
I'm
back?
on Headliners next week. I don't know what's our time. Not tonight. I'm not on tonight. But thank you for asking. I should have checked my calendar. It could be tomorrow night.
Fine.
Anyway, the whole show is so good, where they have comedians, not like me. I'm a bit disorganized, but like real proper comedians.
Lewis, you're fantastic.
Thank you very much. Don't look at me that way.
Thank you for coming.
Tina Turner is amazing. She is great.
What a legend. Lewis Schaffer, thank you very much. He's a GB News presenter. He's a comedian as well. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Still to come, we'll be delving into the world of AI. This, I think, is phenomenal. A pioneering AI system that has enabled a paralysed man to walk again after 12 years. Now, apparently, as I read reports, it said that he walked around for about 30 minutes. Is that not incredible? It is. Could this change the face of neuroscience? But up next, it's climate control. I'll be asking, are you fed up with Just Stop Oil's antics after their latest stunt, where they threw paint over the exhibit at the Chelsea Flower Show? I'll have Just Stop Oil and Lois Perry in the studio after this.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive, because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway, Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's just coming up to 23 minutes after 3 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's fine. It's the beginning of the show. We've got loads more still to come. I'm Nana Akua. You can also stream us live on YouTube or download the GB News app for free. But it's time now for climate control. Just Stop Oil have been hitting the headlines once again. This time, they held a demonstration at the Chelsea Flower Show. Now, I went to the Chelsea Flower Show. It was quite incredible, really. I didn't see them there. I just missed them, actually. But they were smearing orange powder over a garden in protest against climate change. But is a flower show the right place to take action? I mean, the event prides itself on being environmentally friendly, with almost every exhibit displaying sustainable gardening ideas. So are there actions actually helping the cause, or are they just solidifying the name of Just Stop Oil? What was the point of that? So I am joined in the studio by Lois Perry, CEO of Car26, and Frances Davis from Just Stop Oil. She's a spokesperson. Frances, I've got to start with you. Look, what was the point of doing that at a flower show like the Chelsea Flower Show, which does pride itself on sustainability?
Well, there's two reasons, really. One of them was that particular garden was owned by the Royal Bank of Canada, which is now one of the leading investors in fossil fuels. And meanwhile, in Canada, they are seeing an area the size of Wales on fire. There are wildfires the size of Wales, and thousands of people are being displaced. The other reason is that, frankly, this issue, and it's more than an issue, this crisis is not getting the airtime that it deserves. It is not, the people are not being told what they need to know about this crisis. And unfortunately, it takes causing disruption and disrupting cultural, cultural things to get us on here to be able to talk about it and to be able to tell your viewers what they need to know.
Well, Frances, I thought that Just Stop Oil had a founder who was a billionaire and was in oil and gas. But let's go to Lois Perry.
Well, yeah, quite. One of your main funders, I don't know if you're aware, is the Getty family. And so they want to stop not oil and gas, but actually all new oil and gas exploration contracts. Who will that benefit? People that have existing oil and gas contracts. My understanding that garden was actually representative of a sustainable garden. So the fact that you guys actually targeted that shows your extraordinary ignorance. So these extreme weather events, my understanding is there's no more extreme weather events than they've ever been, and actually that's indicated in the IPCC report. So can you elaborate on that?
Francis?
Yeah, that's not what the IPCC report is saying.
Well,
the
it
IPCC
is, yeah.
report
Have you
is
read
saying
it?
that we need to make a rapid transition away from fossil fuels if we are going to stop seeing these extreme weather events. I mean, last week,
but it's not
Italy,
true,
they
is it?
half their projected rainfall in 36 hours. Half of their projected rainfall for the year in 36 hours, and 15 people have died.
Yeah, you know, people die all the time from extreme weather events, but actually the amount of people that have died from extreme weather events over the last 100 years is actually down by 99%. And since the Industrial Revolution, life expectancy has doubled. So fossil fuels, you know they're not going anywhere, don't you? You know that's why the fossil fuel companies are actually in on this whole scam, because they're not going anywhere. And actually what you're doing is pushing the prices and the profitability for the oil companies and the gas companies up. How do you feel about that?
Francis?
Over 1,000 people have died in Pakistan. You know, we keep seeing these events. What you're saying is simply not true. What I'm saying is backed by the United Nations, world's top scientists, you know.
They're very
saying that
trustworthy.
we need to make a transition away from fossil fuels if we are going to stand a chance of surviving.
Can I just interject, Francis? I mean, you are aware that half these things that we need to create, we need to use fossil fuels. So things like concrete, you can't make concrete without fossil fuels. I mean, it's not just about, you know, the emissions given from oil and gas. There are other elements that are required, even fertiliser. So lots and lots of things require fossil fuels. And actually, it could be argued that the Industrial Revolution saved more lives. Had it not been for it, a lot of people would be dead. I mean, how would you respond to that, Francis?
Well, it's simply not true. Do you really think that thousands of people, millions of people in the global south deserve to die because we can't get our act together and find other ways to build things?
But why is it not true? You said it's simply not true. It is true. Like fossil fuels, you know, we use concrete to make shelter, medicine, everything. I'm just wondering why you keep telling me how many people are dying, but I'm just wondering, do you not see that there is a benefit?
People are dying because we keep putting fossil fuels into the atmosphere. We're not saying that we need to go back to the dark ages. We're not saying that we need to turn off immediately on fossil fuels. We are saying that we have 8 years worth of oil and gas in reserves. And we
that is so untrue. It's unbelievable.
Lois, can you let her finish? Sorry. Francis, I didn't hear the end.
I mean, renewables are 9 times cheaper according to their own scientists. Insulation, if we insulated people's homes, that would save as much energy as up to 6 nuclear power plants in a year. The government is investing £236 million a week in fossil fuels. This is such a rip-off. Your viewers are being ripped off.
All right, OK, bless your heart. Right, OK, so renewables are not in any way cheaper. They are extraordinarily subsidised. And in actual fact, what they do, by the fact that we have a legal requirement to put this completely and utterly ridiculous energy that's completely intermittent onto our grid, makes the price of oil and gas go up, which we always need, by the way. You know, it's absolute and complete nonsense.
Well, what would you say to Francis' point, though, that people, you know, that the environment, you know, we need to start considering the environment. And I mean, Just Stop Oil do have a point in some respects.
Well, why would you be targeting?
Hang on, sorry, let me finish.
Sorry.
But they have a point in some respects that actually we need to start looking at alternatives because we can't carry on in this way. I mean, is there a point to that at all?
No, because actually all of the alternatives that are proposed by this green, actually, let's say, neo-Marxist movement are actually much less green. So, for example, electric cars, where you've got little kids in Africa actually mining cobalt and other minerals to make these supposedly green cars, which are charged using fossil fuel-generated electricity. No, they are not more green at all.
Well, Francis, what do you think of the idea of the electric car revolution? That's supposed to stop using oil and gas.
At no point have we talked about electric cars. That has never once come into Just Stop Oil's campaign. All we are asking is that the government stop investing in new oil and gas.
Do you know what hasn't come in? Gettys aren't invested.
And they invest in public transport.
But what would you? But they're trying to make that as an alternative, though. So the reason why we're talking about electric cars is because if we stop using oil and gas in terms of using motor vehicles and things like that, that would be the alternative. So what's your response to that?
We have 8 years to transition. Look, we have to start doing this. We have to start making a transition. I'm here trying to represent this science. You know, this is backed by the world's top scientists. This is not an opinion.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But I'm
decarbonising. And yeah, maybe electric vehicles will be part of that, but that is really not the main issue at the moment. The main issue is that the house is on fire.
But what's
the climate is going to collapse.
The house is on fire. The house is on fire. But I've just given you an alternative, and Lois has explained that there is an issue with this alternative, that it could be worse in terms of the environment. And I'm saying, OK, so we go with you, we get rid of the oil and gas, we start using electric vehicles, but what about the issues with those? Or is that not relevant?
It is. We just have to start making a transition. I mean, all of this is well and good and definitely part of the debate, but actually, ultimately, the government is doing nothing. They are going ahead with over 100 new oil and gas licenses.
Let her answer, because I'm asking her questions and I'm not getting to hear the full answer. I'll give you the final 20 seconds, Lois.
The house that you're in, is it powered by a heat pump? Do you have gas? Because I can see that you're in your kitchen.
I'm sure that's what you're going to say. But you know what? That's because the system that we are living in is broken, because we are in an economy that is built on oil and gas, and this government has made this whole economy run on oil and gas. I don't have a choice. I can't afford not to. And that's
nobody can afford not to. So that's the point.
Nobody can afford it, Francis. That is the point. All right, Francis, David, thank you very much.
It's got to come from the government.
Right, well, OK, we are the government. We pay. It's from our taxes, Francis. Francis, thank you very much. Francis Davis from Just Stop Oil. She's the spokesperson of Lois Perry from Car 26. Well, what do you think, Crikey? Did we talk about the garden at all? Let's have a quick look at what you've been saying then. Sue says Just Stop Oil should be on the pavement with their banners shouting their protests. No one has a problem with that. What we do have a problem with is the criminal damage and the road blocking. Alan says police inaction on the protests is causing normal law-abiding people to take the law into their own hands and criminalise themselves. Jackie says Just Stop Oil idiots are not heroes. They are common vandals and should be jailed. Is there anybody in support of them? If you are, let us know. I'm in support of, in a sense, some of the things that they want, but I'm not in support of their actions. And actually, I don't know whether I'm in support of any of it. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I was just being uncharacteristically kind. After the break, I'll be delving into the world of AI technology. A pioneering AI system has enabled a paralysed man to walk again after 12 years. Could this change the face of neuroscience? But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Nana. I'm Rory Smith in the GB newsroom. ITV says it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. The broadcaster says they were questioned after hearing rumours, but both men denied they were seeing each other. The TV presenter resigned yesterday after admitting he had an affair with a young male colleague, which he described as unwise but not illegal. He told the Daily Mail he lied about the relationship to his wife, to his colleagues, to his friends and to his agents. Air passengers have been voicing their frustrations following a nationwide border control system failure. Thousands of people trying to get away for the bank holiday are facing delays following a technical fault affecting e-gates. The Home Office says it is working to resolve the problem, which is operated by Border Force. The UK's biggest airport, Heathrow, says it's trying to manage queues and is working with authorities to fix the issue as quickly as possible. Well, staying with travel news now, and passengers at the port of Dover are also experiencing delays following earlier IT issues at border control. Apologising for the disruption, the Port Authority says the problem has been fixed, but there are still queues, with cars and coaches waiting at the moment around 45 minutes. A man who was arrested after a car crashed into the Downing Street gates has been charged with making indecent images of children. The 43-year-old was initially detained on suspicion of dangerous driving following Thursday's incident, but officers were later seen searching the boot of the car before it was towed away. He's been remanded in custody after appearing in court on the unrelated offence and will reappear next month. That's all for now, and you can get more of all of those stories by visiting our website, that is gbnews.com. Now though, back to Nana.
Hello, good afternoon. Stay tuned. On the way at 3:45 is this week's Political Spotlight. And now, who remembers this?
It's only the chairman who can remove people from a meeting. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
She's just kicked him out. No, just a minute. No, she's kicked him out. Don't. She's kicked him out.
Yes, Jackie Weaver, she shot to fame after the jaw-dropping council meeting that went viral online. She'll be joining me to tell us about how she does indeed have all the authority. But up next, I'll be delving into the world of AI technology. You will not want to miss this. Hello, good afternoon. It's just coming up to 39 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News, live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, just before the break, we're talking about Just Stop Oil. Lots of you have been getting in touch. Let's see. Margaret says Britain bankrupting itself in trying to achieve net zero is ridiculous. Whatever Britain does won't make one bit of difference whilst the other countries carry on as normal. He says someone should ask these hypocritical protesters what cars they drive and how they warm their houses. Do they not realise that oil derivatives are used in virtually everything they wear, along with most of the things they use? He says they don't know. And when you do ask them, they go, well, I can't afford to. Yeah, neither can we. Ryan says Just Stop Oil are protesting about a worthy cause. No one else will admit we are in a climate crisis and actually do anything about it. So they have no choice but to try and get the government's attention. Yeah, that would be fair. That is fair, but the government are trying to do something with it. That's why we're all broke. Right, well, ITV says that it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. So we're moving on to Phillip Schofield, and this comes as Phillip Schofield admitted to an affair with a much younger man. The former This Morning presenter described his relationship with ITV employee as unwise but not illegal, and admitted to lying to his friends, the management and pretty much everybody about the affair. Right, let's go to GB News national reporter Theo Chikumba and get an update with that story. Theo, what have we got now? Any more things emerging?
Yes, well, this afternoon ITV released a statement highlighting some of the questions that people had over the last few weeks. And in a statement they said, further to our statement last night, ITV can confirm that when rumours of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and an employee of ITV first began to circulate in early 2020, ITV investigated. They went on to say both parties were questioned and both categorically and repeatedly denied the rumours, as did Phillip's then agency, YMU. They went on to say this. In addition, ITV spoke to a number of people who worked on This Morning and were not provided with and did not find any evidence of a relationship beyond hearsay and a rumour. But what we do know now is that Phillip Schofield has addressed some of these things in the statement that he addressed to Daily Mail for people to read yesterday. And today we've been getting a glimpse of what some of the people here think, particularly those who've watched the programme over the years.
Yeah, I suppose it is, like, it's a shame. He's like someone that people really liked and looked up to, so yeah, it definitely is a shame.
I think he was a big part of ITV. Him and Holly were very close together, but it is what it is. Sometimes this is a blessing in disguise. It could be that he might need to move on and do something different now.
It's a real shame that it's happened like this, due to things behind closed doors. You never know what might happen in the future. Hopefully they can all rekindle, but I wish them all the best.
And having spoken to people here throughout the day, a lot of people have been referencing the relationship which has been spoken about over some time now. But in his statement, he said he was so very sorry for being unfaithful to his wife and for lying to his colleagues, agents, employees, friends, and for those in the press. He continued by saying, contrary to speculation, whilst I met the man when he was a teenager and was asked to help him to get into the television industry, it was only after he started to work on the show that it became more than just a friendship. That friendship was unwise but not illegal. It is now over. Moving on from that, there are questions now about how This Morning is going to operate. We've seen cover presenters or those who normally go on periodically at times coming onto the show, such as Dermot O'Leary and Alison Hammond, but Holly Willoughby currently isn't on air because of the half-term break. But once she returns, what's going to happen then? There are questions about whether the show should be revamped, others saying maybe a new format is needed, particularly as Phillip Schofield was a big part of that since 2002, and it's a show that's watched by hundreds of thousands of people across the country.
And fewer by the day. Thank you, Theo. Very good to talk to you. That's Theo Chikumba. He's our national GB News reporter. Right, let's move on to another story. A pioneering AI system has enabled a paralysed man to walk again after being confined to a wheelchair for 12 years following a motorcycle accident. Now, 40-year-old Gert Zhang Oscom broke his spinal cord in his neck and was told by doctors that he would never walk again. After taking part in a groundbreaking study, Oscom was able to walk around for about half an hour, climb stairs, and even stand independently at a bar to drink with his friends. The technology works with decoding his brain activity and then sending a message wirelessly to the nerves that control his muscles so that he is able to walk. Wow. So I'm delighted to say consultant neurosurgeon and complex spine surgeon Dr. Rafid Al-Mahfoud, I don't know how to say that, is it Al-Mahfouda? Have I got it right?
Oh my goodness.
It's wrong.
That's correct.
Is it right? Wow, crikey, he joins me now. Wow. Dr. Rafid, this sounds incredible. Are you behind this, or is this are you part of the study group, or what's your involvement? Are you involved in this in any way?
I'm not directly involved in it, no, but as a neurosurgeon and spine surgeon, we come across patients who do present with paralysis most commonly following an injury, where as you've just mentioned in your story, this gentleman was unfortunate enough to sustain a fracture in his neck, I think following a biking accident, and as a result sustained a cord injury. So these are the kind of patients that we see primarily. and treat them initially, for example, stabilizing their spine and removing compression from the cord. But as with this gentleman, often they're left with a motor deficit or difficulty functioning because of disruption of the cord. And science has been looking into ways of trying to restore that function over the years, with some limited success, I would say. So the exciting possible news here is that there may be a start of a process where these patients can be helped. And roughly we have around 1,000 to 2,500 patients a year presenting in this way. So obviously it would be of great help. The device itself depends on picking up signals from electrical activity in the brain, and that's how motor function starts, by electric activities from the brain, which are then conducted down tracts in the spinal cord and to the legs, to the lower limbs. And the aim of the device is to, as you've mentioned briefly, decode the signals that they pick up from the brain. So it depends on electrodes in the skull, then decoded and then stimulated to the cord beneath the area of injury.
How is this connected to him then? Is it because he was wearing something on his head? Did they have to do some surgery to get it to connect to the neurons or the neurofibers or whatever they are in the brain?
So basically, there's two electrodes, which in the description of the case, which have been implanted in the skull, which are picking.
Oh, we're losing you. Oh no, we're losing you. We've lost you. Oh, I wanted to know how that works. I mean, that is quite incredible, isn't it? I mean, if this is the start of AI, and this is where we are at the beginning from what we know, then this could be quite incredible. We're going to try and get him back because I have lots of questions about it. And I'm wondering, you know, who would be able to use this? Would it be anybody who's paralysed? Are there any kind of limitations as to how, and pretty much how soon this could be something that could be we could have in normal life? Let's get Dr. Rafid back in. Dr. Rafid, so just ask you again. So it's connected to some sort of electrodes or something, and then you were just saying how it worked, and then we lost you.
Yeah, sorry. So basically, the electrodes are implanted within the skull to pick up the electric signal. When we think about a movement, the neurons are activated through neurotransmitters, i.e. chemicals, and then electric signals, which are action potentials. So we can pick up those signals, and that's a technology which has been present per se. The difference here is the decoding of it and understanding the different amplitudes of these signals and which muscles they're aiming to activate. And the AI aspect of it is to help modify and fine-tune. So that's the newer part, because then the other aspect of it is to re-input that signal as a stimulus along the spine through something called the spine cord stimulator, which again is technology which has already been present and we've had for a while. I think it's exciting. The summary from my perspective is exciting news and obviously some hope for patients out there who have been paralysed, but also, as often is the case with these situations, a degree of caution and what it can be achieved, and it's at the start, and it's one case only. There's a trial which is going to be conducted with more patients, and I think that's when we can rely a bit more on the data. And just to note, this patient, for example, did have some power in his legs. It wasn't a complete paralysis.
If people were listening and they have somebody who they'd like to put forward for this sort of trial, is that happening in this country or is it somewhere else? And is there anywhere, do you know of, that people can find out more about it?
I mean, the study group itself is based in the Netherlands, and I think this is at the start, so I wouldn't probably advise patients to go contacting directly, but for sure at some stage, and usually these trials happen in more than one stage, and if proved successful with good outcomes, then it will be brought to more patients, hopefully.
Wow, so there are good things with AI that could come out of things like this. Dr. Rafid Al-Mufad, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I think I got it right. I think I got it right the first time, and then I got it wrong the second time, but never mind. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's just coming up to 10 minutes to 4 o'clock. It's now time for a political spotlight. Now, do you remember Jackie Weaver? And I have no authority, Jackie Weaver, and that clip that went viral to show even local council meetings can actually be feisty. Jackie Weaver shocked to fame after the jaw-dropping meeting went viral, where councillors claimed that she had no authority to remove certain individuals from the call, but she did it anyway. After the incident, she said that she wasn't as confident as she looked during the meeting, and since then she's had guest appearances at the Brit Awards and is even set to appear on Celebrity Mastermind. In her day-to-day life, she's a chief officer at the Cheshire Association of Local Councils. So how has the fame affected her career? Well, I'm pleased to say that joining me now is woman with all the authority. It's Jackie Weaver. Jackie Weaver. Oh, Jackie. It was so funny, Jackie. I mean, when you were doing that, did you not find it funny at the time as well, or were you deadly serious? Because you were quite deadpan with that.
Yeah, and I mean, we were still getting to grips with Zoom and Teams and stuff. It was the early days of that, you know, so it was really, the technology was scarier than anything else. So I was mainly worried about pressing the wrong buttons. That was what I was focused on. So kind of, no, I didn't really have time to kind of sit back and think what's going on.
And then when it sort of went viral, so everyone's looking at it and laughing, when you watched it, did you find it amusing as well?
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt about it. There are things in it that are, you know, the kind of things that you expect to see in sitcoms and sketches and things, you know, like Julie's iPad, for example, and the way that you have that conversation where you don't realise that people are listening to you. And of course, I think they're funny because we know we do it and we see it happen to other people as well.
It was just, honestly, it was incredibly funny. And you don't often get to see that side of it, because every time you see this stuff, it's always so perfected and so... But you just saw people who were just like you and I, just fumbling through what was, I remember, lockdown, which was a bit of a nightmare. But that was a real bit of light in all of that sort of gloom. So this kind of put you out there. And how has it affected your life? What was it like? I mean, after that, you must have been inundated with people wanting to talk to you.
I mean, that for me was the thing that was just so unbelievable. I mean, the actual meeting itself took place 2 months before. So, you know, it wasn't kind of, the meeting wasn't new to me. I mean, it had happened. There was nothing had fallen out of it. And then suddenly it went viral. I even know what viral means now. You know, back in that February, I had no idea what it means. And I could not understand the media interest. So I guess my husband and I are kind of, you know, pragmatic, very laid back. I was thinking, you know, when all those reporters and TV and everything were kind of parked outside on the morning, it'll last a day. Then we thought, well, OK, it might last the weekend. And it was kind of like at least a whole year of readjusting that. You know, I mean, tomorrow they won't be interested. And the number of opportunities for addressing groups, for kind of a lot of interesting stuff like TV and stuff like that, which is dead exciting, but also the opportunity to get into organisations that in my day job I would have loved to have been able to access over the last 20 years. Suddenly they were inviting me to things. And that for me was really the really positive thing that came out of it, that those doors were opened just because of the name. And what really surprises me is that, you know, you go to a really serious kind of meeting and you're all kind of anxious about it, you're briefed and everything, and you fear that you're going to be grilled on the technical details. And everybody says things like, and what was it like to meet Anton de Beck? And that's, you know, and everybody else is, you know, kind of like you say, they're just like us, they're ordinary. And it's the human story they want to hear about rather than your expertise in your field.
Well, let's have a look.
Same, basically.
Well, let's have a look at that clip again, because I love it. Jackie, we'll watch this clip. This is you, and authority, all the authority that you have.
It's only the chairman who can remove people from a meeting. You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
She's just kicked him out. Just a minute. No, she's kicked him out. Don't. She's kicked him out. Don't.
This is a meeting called by two councillors.
Illegally?
They now elect a chairman.
No, they can't, because the vice chair's here. I take charge. Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
It's so funny. Oh, Jackie, it's funny.
I mean, I was shocked. I mean, I'd known about them for some time, and clearly people don't get that angry in 2 minutes. This is something that had been brewing for over 2 years, in fact. And I guess even then, I was still shocked by how angry they were. I have never since and never before come across anybody that angry.
It's funny. So now, obviously, this is great. You can access lots of different things that you wouldn't have had the access to because people recognise you. You said that there's been lots of positive things, but has there been anything that was quite negative about it?
No, I mean that's the thing that I really have found amazing. I mean, I think that when we talk about the media and the press, you often have really bad cards. We always think you're always looking for the downside of the story. You're always looking to spin it as badly as you possibly can. My experience hasn't been that, because my fear was that people would look at that video and say, I don't want to get involved in local politics, local democracy, because if it looks like that, I don't want to do it. But when people have interviewed me, although it's acknowledged that that behaviour happened and that behaviour is completely unacceptable, they've then moved quickly on to all the positive and the fun stuff. So what you're left with is more of a positive message than a negative one. And it is true, that kind of behaviour does happen. But we work very hard to make sure that it doesn't. And one of the ways everybody can help with that is by showing an interest in their local council, because it's far less likely to happen when you have witnesses. But often what happens is that people have these fabulous town and parish councils that do a lot in their communities, and people just sit back and let them get on with it. Go and see it in action. You never know, you might be on the next viral video.
So now you're a chief officer at the Cheshire Association for Local Councils, and I suppose you get a lot to do. We're running out of time, but just briefly, talk to me about, just tell us how it's affected you in a positive way.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
Well, we're running out of time, so I just wanted to find out what your day-to-day business is, but we're running out of so much time. I haven't even got time to ask you that, Jackie. But Jackie Weaver, you have all the authority in the world. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm honoured to speak to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for providing us with so much entertainment during the lockdowns. That's the fabulous Jackie Weaver. She's my political spotlight. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Stay tuned. There's loads more to come in the next hour.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Nana. I'm Rory Smith in the GB newsroom. We're going to start with some breaking news in the last few moments, and the body of a teenage boy has been found in the River Eden in Carlisle. Cumbria Police were searching for the 15-year-old who disappeared yesterday after a group got into difficulty. Another boy from the group was airlifted to hospital and remains in a critical condition. We'll bring you more on this developing story as we get it. Well, in other news, ITV says it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. The broadcaster says they were questioned after hearing rumours, but both men denied they were seeing each other. The TV presenter resigned yesterday after admitting he had an affair with a young male colleague, which he described as unwise but not illegal. He told the Daily Mail he lied about the relationship to his wife, to his colleagues, to his friends and to his agents. Mail on Sunday journalist Charlotte Griffiths says people in the industry must have known.
There was a video of him having lunch in a cafe with this young man, although I think he was 18 at the time. So it was the worst kept secret. You have to take him at his word. You know, Holly must have asked him about this. People around him must have asked him about this, and he must have lied. That's what he said, and that's all we know right now.
Well, GB News presenter and former This Morning host Eamon Holmes has hit out at his ex-colleague, saying he's finally been caught out. On social media, he said 4 high members of ITV management knew what sort of man he was and never once took action to prevent him controlling or taking advantage of his position over young people. Well, showbiz reporter Ellie Phillips told us that Schofield's actions were more than inappropriate.
He's saying it's not illegal, but it's also about an abuse of power, because Phillip Schofield is was the face of This Morning, in a massive position of power, and then you've got a runner who, in the scheme of things within the scene, you know, within how it works behind the scenes, is much lower down the rung in terms of power. So it's about that power imbalance, I think.
Well, in other news this afternoon, air passengers have been voicing their frustrations following a nationwide border control system failure. Thousands of people travelling for the bank holiday are facing delays following a technical fault affecting e-gates. The Home Office says it's working to resolve the problem with the electronic system, which is operated by Border Force. The UK's biggest airport, Heathrow, says it's trying to manage queues and is working with authorities to fix the issue as quickly as possible. Well, staying with travel news now, and passengers at the port of Dover are also experiencing delays following an earlier IT issue at border control. Apologising for the disruption, the Port Authority says the problem has now been fixed, but there are still queues, with cars and coaches waiting at the moment for around 45 minutes. A man who was arrested after a car crashed into the Downing Street gates has been charged with making indecent images of children. The 43-year-old was initially detained on suspicion of dangerous driving following Thursday's incident, while officers were later seen searching the boot of the car before it was towed away. He's been remanded in custody after appearing in court on the unrelated offence and will reappear next month. Former First Minister of Northern Ireland, Arlene Foster, believes the DUP could do a deal with Labour as it works to restore a power-sharing government. While speaking to Gloria De Piero, the GB News presenter says a coalition could be formed if the next general election delivers a hung parliament.
Would it be fanciful to even think that there could ever be any sort of agreement with the Labour Party in the DUP?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And I think there is quite good relationships with the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, the Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Peter Kyle, and indeed with Sir Keir as well. So no, not at all.
And you can watch the full interview with Arlene Foster. That's on Gloria Meets, and you can catch that tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Well, finally, a 6-year-old boy who's climbing 12 mountains to raise money for charity is preparing for his final hike. Oscar Barrow from Lancaster, who was inspired by Sir Edmund Hillary, said he wanted to be the youngest person to climb Everest. Well, to help him achieve his goal, his dad tallied up the peaks, which include Snowdon and Scawfell Pike, so that they'd be a similar height to Everest. He's due to climb Ben Nevis on Monday and has already raised more than £30,000 for Darien House Children's Hospice in Chorley. Good luck to him. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now, though, back to Nana.
Thank you, Rory. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is a GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. Karma. Phillip Schofield has finally come out, and not for the first time. This time claiming he is deeply sorry for a relationship that he had with a man reportedly 30 years younger than him at the time. He called it unwise but not illegal. What a mess. But this isn't the first time his behaviour has been somewhat questionable. Remember when he came out as gay? He appeared to woo the sympathy of all those around who called him brave. Look, I don't care what someone's sexuality is, it's none of my business. But my sympathy was with his wife, who, if she is, as it seemed, wasn't aware, had been living a lie with him for years, poor woman, standing by him throughout all this. But Phillip is good at lying, which, by his own admission, is what he's been doing. Then there was Q-Gate, when he and co-host Holly Willoughby jumped the queue to see the Queen in state, whilst global stars like David Beckham queued for 8 hours or so. Scof and Holly breezed by with smug looks on their faces, the gall of them. They tried to get out of it by saying they would never jump the queue, Holly's voiceover stating, like hundreds of accredited broadcasters and journalists, we were given official permission to access the hall. Right, yeah. It was strictly for the purpose of reporting on the event for millions of people in the UK who have not been able to visit Westminster in person. Oh, please. I was surprised that both managed to hang on after that. But this latest scandal... Now, I don't work at ITV, and even I knew about this affair. ITV apparently investigated the rumours, but both involved denied it. On Twitter, GB News presenter Eamon Holmes, who used to host Fridays on This Morning with his wife Ruth, shared this tweet. He wrote, Schofield has finally been caught out. But he's not the only guilty party. 4 high members of ITV management knew what sort of a man he was and never once took action to prevent him controlling or taking advantage of his position over young people. I mean, even I knew about Phillip's entitled behaviour to many members of his staff because people I've worked with have complained about him. I mean, Phillip wasn't particularly pleasant to GB News regular panellist Lizzie Cundy, but Eamon did not hold back.
Kindness wasn't much in evidence when he really rudely interrupted Ruth when she was trying to do a link to Loose Women.
Listen, I could give you a list of the lack of kindness and the lack of awareness from both of them about how they would socialise or know people around them. You just have to look at my phone full of people who are glad to see the back of the two of them.
In a statement, Phillip said, "I'm painfully conscious that I've lied to my employers at ITV, to my colleagues and friends, to my agents, to the media, and therefore the public, and most importantly of all, to my family. I am so very, very sorry, as I am, for having been unfaithful to my wife." Is there anyone left? I think it's safe to say Phillip Schofield is a big fat liar. It's over, Phillip. You've had a good run, but you cannot beat the laws of karma. So before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? The Prime Minister is facing a big backlash as the UK's net migration has hit a record calendar high of 606,000. Sunak has vowed to cut dependency on foreign workers, but is he to blame for the crisis in the first place? Then stay tuned at 4:50, it's Royal Roundup time, and who better to delve into the lives of the royals than Angela Levin? She'll be live, giving us the latest from the palace walls. On the menu, Prince William, he's paid tribute to the late Tina Turner by opening up about how her music brings back memories of his mother. We'll bring you all the details of that and much more. Then, at 5 o'clock, it's this week's Difficult Conversation. Jessica Alves will be in the studio live. Now, she can be described as a metamorphosis personified. The Brazilian TV personality born Rodrigo had her first nose job at 19 and spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on plastic surgery ever since. The public have followed her transformation on social media. She'll be live in the studio to talk about all of that. That's on the way in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk.com even, I'll remember it, or tweet me at GBNews. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Right, I'm going to start with you, Lizzie Cundy, because you've been on the sofa this morning. You've met them both. You've met Ollie and Phil and all that. Yeah.
I've actually worked there. I look back, it was 20 years, and I did a great fashion strand with Phillip back in 2007. And he was the golden boy. I mean, he got into This Morning because of John Leslie's misfortune, if you remember.
I remember that, yes.
And Holly and him were the golden couple. They won the NTA awards, BAFTAs, and people loved them for their openness, their warmth, and you know, being truthful, being able to talk to them about their own problems, and it's a great magazine show. I, for one, love working on it and loved the team. But sadly, what's happened is now that Phillip's gone from golden boy to like the Prince Andrew of the TV world. It really is quite shocking. And he may say that it was consensual, he may say it wasn't illegal, but this is about a matter of power, and there are rules in the workplace to stop this happening. And I feel very, very sorry for his wife Steph, for his daughters. He's lied to them, he's lied to ITV, he lied to his lawyers, and he lied to the viewers, and you know, who had trust in him. And it's a very, very sad day, and I particularly feel sad for the young colleague who's involved with this, who's all over the internet now, and whose life will probably never be the same.
Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that the key words Lizzie used there were openness and warmth. This was Phillip Schofield's image all the way along the line, and that has been completely shattered quite clearly. So if you are a public figure, you've chosen a career in the public eye, one of the golden rules is don't lie to the public who make you rich, because they're never going to trust you again. And that's why his TV career is over. The question obviously now is how many other people at This Morning and at ITV could find themselves losing their jobs too.
Do you think it's going to be a bit of a domino effect and there'll be others?
Well, I mean, the question comes down to what this investigation was all about that they looked into. I mean, what ITV is saying today is that they mounted an investigation in 2020. Both Phillip and the young man involved denied any kind of sexual relationship. Well, how far do they go? Do they just go up and ask them? Do they ask other people? All of us had heard the rumours about this long before that. So the next question is, how did the investigation go? Should they now have a look at who knew what? And if somebody else was covering up, they should go too.
But Lizzie, you've worked with them. What are they like? Are they nice?
Look, I have worked with them, and I know Phillip and I know Holly. Philip, he was kind of temperamental. You never knew quite what you were going to get. Holly was always very, very pleasant to me, and I've no problems, and I love working on the show. But there are many that are coming out, and GB News host Eamon Holmes, who's a dear friend of mine, knows only too well what it was like, and feels that he was had over when Philip came out as gay, and Philip, you know, he was there, you know, wanting support from Eamon and his wife Ruth, and you know, it is a sorry mess. It's a toxic mess, you know, and I think it has to be looked into for sure. But look, you know, as you've said, Nigel, you've got two people, you know, saying nothing was going on, deny. But I think the truth is going to rise to the top.
Well, it should rise to the top. It always does. Cream always rises to the top, so we'll find out more about that. But if you are, I mean, look, just imagine if you're an agent and looking after somebody like that. I mean, that must be very difficult in terms of an agent. So let's have a chat with Sky Andrew, a talent agent who, you know, look, Sky, it's good to talk to you, Sky. Look, this is like one of those very difficult situations. As an agent, what do you do? I mean, his agents have dropped him, even though he's got a share in the business. It's very difficult, isn't it? Do you think there's any future left for Phillip Schofield in TV?
Look, one of the most important things an agent should do is be able to deal with critical management. Critical management is where someone gets in trouble and you respond very quickly to protect their brand. And in the UK, the most important brand is like relationship or family. And all of the mothers sitting at home watching this morning, they're looking at Philip and Holly and saying, oh, we trust in you, we believe in you, you've got integrity, sincerity. And this is why both of them make millions from endorsing products and being ambassadors. But women are the power brokers in this world. Some men may disagree with me, but once a woman decides that you have lied or you have treated your woman badly, you're on the road to nowhere.
You sound like you say that with experience.
He does.
The thing is, I mean, look, 2008, I created Inspiration Awards for Women. So I'm around this women, inspirational women, and I speak to a lot of women. And the fact is that the people that watch daytime television specifically are women. And if you lie to women, or you are dishonest, or they look at you and think, hang on a minute, you're not who you say you are, it's very difficult to come back from that. Someone like Jeremy Clarkson, he got into trouble, he punched someone, and 6 months later, he's back on TV. In this case, this is the public feeling that they've been fooled for a long, long time. People will say, oh, well, how comes ITV didn't do something earlier? Look, the agents, their job is to protect his brand and to develop him. And you will find over the years that this wouldn't be the only issue that's gone on. There's been other issues.
No, there's been
and the agents would have done something to protect him. But on this occasion, it's very interesting that the agent has dropped him. So they're saying, we can't protect you. And even if we lose the money, we can't work with you, which is... In the agents world, let me tell you, that's very rare.
Well, apparently he's got shares in the agency as well, so he's got interest in it himself. So for that to be the case, his brand must be even more toxic than we already know. I suspect there may well be more revelations coming out. There must be, because I think the lawyers have dropped him as well, which is big, right? Your lawyers don't want to work with you either. And, you know, he's pretty much lied to everybody. What about Holly, though? Because you said the women are the power brokers. Do you think that she is in trouble now? She may have had absolutely no knowledge of any of this, so there's no suggestion that she does. But the point is that she's associated with him.
Yeah, listen, Holly's the power broker in that relationship. Holly's the power broker of the show. She's a mother. She's married. She's lovely. Everybody likes her. And as long as the public believe that she's honest, she will continue to be an amazing commercial brand. But now she's got this association with Schofield, where the public are looking at her and thinking, did you know all along what was going on? Have you hoodwinked us? But the debate is out. And some people will be sitting on the fence because she's got such a huge following. Huge brands have invested millions into her.
They have.
Until someone categorically proves that she knew what was going on and she was part of the facade, then she's okay.
Well, obviously, there's no suggestion that she knew anything. So, you know, I don't know how I feel about Holly. I mean, you know, I don't know. I think they need to scrap this morning. Do you think it will go? We're running out of time. But briefly, do you think that they'll get rid of this morning?
Well, the thing is that TV is very much about public opinion and credibility. You saw with the Jeremy Kyle show, as soon as it lost credibility, it was gone very quickly. And I think that this morning they're going to struggle now because their integrity is taking a massive bashing. So the public are going to look at this and say, well, actually, this show is incredible. We don't believe what you're saying. This is a facade. We're going to stop watching. And the key is going to be if the viewing figures drop. The people can say whatever they want, but it's a commercial business. And if the viewing figures stay high, then ITV will find it difficult to drop the show. But if the figures start dropping and the public start questioning the individuals on the show, then they're in big trouble.
Sky Andrews, thank you very much. He's a talent agent. Really good to talk to you. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Stay tuned at 5 in this week's conversation. Jessica Alves will be live in the studio. She can be described as a metamorphosis personified, the Brazilian personality born Rodrigo. So she was a man, had her first nose job at the age of 19 and has spent hundreds of thousands on plastic surgery ever since. The public have followed her transformation on social media. We'll find out more from her later. But first, it's time for the Great British Debate. I'm asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? Send me your thoughts. Email gbviews@gbnews.com. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. You can also tweet me at GB News. I have a poll up right now asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? Cast your vote now.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. This is GB News. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? What, in the sunshine? Why? It's coming up to 25 minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Now, before the break, we were discussing the Phillip Schofield saga. Let's have a look at what you've been saying. Andrew says, please make it stop. I don't care about whatever Schofield did or did not do. I've never liked the smiley fakery. Yawn, yawn, Kenneth says. Yeah, but it's good fun, isn't it? Fed up to the back teeth with hearing about him, Richard says. Oh, God, you're not going to like our last hour. Fake TV presented by two queue-jumping fakes. I hope the programme goes down the plug hole. We might as well have some fun with it, do you know what I mean? Listen, it's time now, though. Let's get serious for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? People seem to think it's all his fault, but do you? The Prime Minister is facing a big backlash as the UK's net migration has hit a record calendar high of 606,000. I don't know why that's written like that. It comes despite a 2019 Tory manifesto commitment to bring overall numbers down, and more than a decade of Conservative-led governments promising to reduce net migration. And the figure is the 2022 is almost double pre-Brexit levels and accounts for cross-channel migrants, students, NHS workers, the Ukrainian refugees. And don't forget as well, we've had all the things with Hong Kong and all this stuff. So we've had a lot going on. Sunak says that net migration is too high, but it's emerged that foreign teachers are being offered £10,000 to work in English schools to fill classroom vacancies. Is that the way we want it to go? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? Joining me now is Dennis McShane. He's the former Labour Minister for Europe. We've got Neil Hamilton, leader of UKIP, and David Curtin, leader of the Heritage Party, and David Haig, international rights, human rights lawyer. Right, I'm going to start with Dennis McShane, former Minister for Europe. What do you think, Dennis? Do you blame him?
I'm sorry, Rishi's been Prime Minister, but more importantly, he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. That's number 2 in the government over the last 3 years since the 2019 election. It is on his watch. As Chancellor, you've got every right to bust in to see the Prime Minister, talk to the Cabinet and say, we've got to get on top of this. He has been asleep at the wheel. He appointed Suella Braverman, whose only obsession is promoting herself as the next leader. I mean, she's literally one of the worst Home Secretaries we've got. Just look at this disaster over passports, e-gates.
Well, but could that not be accredited to the civil servants? I mean, what's taking them so long? Why is it taking them so long to process it? These guys have been against the government from the start.
I'm sorry. It is, I was there myself as an MP, I face those problems, I attack ministers. Ministers are responsible. Stop lifting responsibility.
I'm not shifting responsibility, but I'm thinking that the civil servants, they're the ones doing the actual lifting. Why is it taking them so long?
They will work 24/7 if the Prime Minister or the Chancellor...
No, they won't even come, they won't even work from that, they're still working from home. David Curtin, they won't even come to the office.
Yes, it is. Hello, good evening. It is Rishi Sunak's fault to an extent, but it's also the fault of every single Prime Minister since Blair, through Brown, Cameron, May, Johnson, Truss, and now Sunak, who have... Blair started rapid mass immigration, and it's just got worse and worse and worse until now we've got net immigration of 600,000 and gross immigration of 1.2 million coming into the country. It could be stopped very, very quickly by getting a control of the boats that are coming across illegally. But that's only a very small part of the problem. The biggest problem are student visas and work visas and the Ukraine settlement scheme, which together account for 1 million of those 1.2 million coming in. I've said from the beginning of the Ukraine conflict, we shouldn't get involved. We're giving out 200,000 visas a year to people to resettle from Ukraine. There's 600,000 a year we're giving out to students and their dependents. There should be a strict cap on that of 100,000, and that would get down to net zero immigration immediately at a stroke. I would do that if I was in the Labour Party. Rishi Sunak could do that as well.
But David, though, yeah, it's easy to say that. Talk is cheap, though, because you're not in the role at the time. I mean, what would we do? I mean, I'm going to bring it to David Haig, who's an international human rights lawyer. Surely we have to take in people from war-torn countries. This can't purely be really brought down to Rishi Sunak. I take your point, David Curtin, that it could potentially... it's not just his fault when it's a succession of leaders. But, David Haig, we had to take these people, didn't we, from war-torn places, surely?
Well, absolutely. I think good afternoon, Nana. I mean, I think absolutely we do need to take people. We need to take genuine migrants. We always need to genuine asylum seekers. There needs to be a fair and effective asylum process, and I mean fair and effective. We don't have that at the moment. And is it Rishi Sunak's fault? Not just his fault. It's successive governments. It's not just the Tories. If you go back to 2010 and you look at the figures then, it was highest migration figures in 2010 when Cameron took over. It's going up and up and up. I mean, what you can blame, I think, Rishi Sunak fairly is in his short term as PM is presiding over I would say, never seen before level of complete incompetence in immigration policies, putting through policies that are effectively never going to get anywhere, particularly with the amount of time left. And I would say, as a human rights lawyer, designed to weaponize xenophobia and immigration to win votes. I mean, that's the way that I would look at it. Solely responsible, no, but definitely part of the problem.
Do you think he's weaponising that then to win votes? What do you think, Neil Hamilton?
Well, that's exactly what Labour did, of course. That's why Blair opened the floodgates to immigration after 1997, because as we know from polling data, first-generation migrants overwhelmingly have supported the Labour Party. And it was a deliberate policy of the Labour government of Blair and Brown to maximise the number of people coming here. And things have got worse and worse since. All governments, as David Curtin said, since 1997, are collectively responsible for the problems that we now have. But, this Conservative government is worse than the Labour government, because at least Labour were pretty explicit in their intentions. This government has lied about it. They say they want to control migration, bring it down to tens of thousands, as Cameron said. And yet this year, as we've just seen, 606,000 people added to our population through immigration, 7 million in the last 20 years. But at the current rate, we'll add another 7 million in the next 12 years.
But we need, but Neil, but then a lot of people came from war torn. So as you alluded to, the large number of
that's
people.
not true. That isn't true. The overwhelming bulk of the migration is not from Ukraine. I have no problem with the migration from Ukraine. Of course, we have an obligation to take in people from Ukraine, a war-torn country on the edge of Europe. And because the men folk are still left in Ukraine and they are fighting, the expectation is that most of these families will, when peace is restored, if it ever is, return to Ukraine. As we've seen with the EU migration since Brexit, that has collapsed, and most of those who came here before have gone back to the EU. The problem is not migration within Europe.
Well, David Curtin, you came up with those statistics. You said your party would wipe it out if you just stopped a load of stuff. Didn't you come up with the figures? Where'd you get those numbers from?
From the government's website, from gov.uk. So I've just looked at them before the programme. Everybody can see them. They're there. They break down immigration into different categories. There's the Ukraine visa scheme. There is the student scheme. There's the student dependent scheme. There are work visas. And within that, there's temporary work visas as well. So it basically breaks down, if you look at it, 6222. 600,000 students and student dependents. 200,000 work visas on the points-based system. 200,000 resettlement from Ukraine and 200,000 for other reasons, temporary workers, asylum seekers, etc. That's how it breaks down.
So those figures
very, very
So those figures exist. Dennis Mitchell, you've got 10 seconds. What are you going to say? 10 seconds, so Dennis. I'm saying.
Very simply, we got rid of 500,000 European workers and now we're recruiting in Pakistan, India, Nigeria to replace them. David Cohn's quite right. We can stop every student coming in and close down about half of all our universities and put all those university professors out of work. That might be quite popular in some circles.
No, that's not going to happen. Well, listen, thank you very much to Dennis McShane, former Labour Minister for Europe, Neil Hamilton, leader for UKIP, David Curtin, leader for the Heritage Party, and also David Haig. He's an international human rights lawyer. Thank you for your thoughts. Right, well, what do you think? I don't know. Do you think, would you blame Rishi for all of this? It's not entirely his fault, but you've got to blame someone. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, after the break, we will continue with the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Nana. I'm Rory Smith in the GB newsroom. We're going to start with some breaking news because 2 Just Stop Oil protesters have been arrested for disrupting the Gallagher Premiership rugby final at Twickenham. 37-year-old Dr. Patrick Hart from Bristol and 40-year-old Sam Johnson from Essex ran onto the pitch midway through the first half of the match before throwing orange paint powder onto the field. Play was stopped as the men were escorted from the stadium by stewards. ITV says it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. The broadcaster says they were questioned after hearing rumours, but both men denied they were seeing each other. The TV presenter resigned yesterday after admitting he had an affair with a young male colleague, which he described as unwise but not illegal. Air passengers have been voicing their frustrations following a nationwide border control system failure. Thousands of people trying to get away for the bank holiday are facing delays following a technical fault affecting e-gates. The Home Office says it's working to resolve the problem, which is operated by Border Force. The UK's biggest airport, Heathrow, says it's trying to manage queues and is working with authorities to fix the issue as quickly as possible. Well, staying with travel news, and passengers at the Port of Dover are also experiencing delays. That's due to earlier IT issues at border control. Apologising for the disruption, the Port Authority says the problem has been fixed, but there are still queues, with cars and coaches waiting around 45 minutes. That's all for now. You can get more on all of those stories by visiting our website. That is gbnews.com.
Thank you, Rory. Still to come at 5, it's this week's difficult conversation. Jessica Alves will be in the studio live. Now, she could be described as a metamorphosis personified. Now, she's a Brazilian TV personality born Rodrigo, had her first nose job at age 19 and has spent hundreds and thousands of pounds on plastic surgery ever since. The public have followed her transformation on social media. She'll be joining me to talk about all of that. But before that, it'll be this week's Great British Debate. I'm asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? That's on the way next.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now? Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua and we return to our Great British debate this hour. I'm asking, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? Now, the Prime Minister is facing a big backlash as the UK's net migration has hit... I've got a tickle in my throat. Has reached a record calendar year high of 6,000, and it comes despite a 2019 Tory manifesto commitment to bring overall numbers down. Now, the figure for 2022 accounts for cross-channel migrants, students, NHS workers and Ukrainian refugees. And Sunak says that net migration is too high, but then he denies that he's lost control. So, for the Great British debate I'm asking, do you blame him for the crisis? Let's see what my panel make of that. Joining me, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Nigel Nelson. Nigel, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he's not responsible for the figures because they've been caused by a perfect storm. So it's Ukraine, it's Afghans coming here, it's Hong Kongers coming here, and also COVID, because students couldn't get here during COVID, so we have a bigger number now. So what's going to happen is that it will fall. The numbers actually will fall. Where Rishi Sunak gets it wrong is his kind of knee-jerk, cat-handed approach to doing something and just messing things up. So take the guns have turned towards the students now. Let's try and stop students coming in. We had an international education strategy from 2019 where we wanted 600,000 students here to support our universities by 2030. Now we're discouraging them. So at the moment you've got contradictory policies going backwards and forwards. It won't make a huge difference to the numbers. Only 1 in 4 students bring dependents in, and that's a partner and their children. If they're not allowed to do that, they won't come here, and our universities will suffer.
Lizzie?
Well, I think it's down to successive governments and the blob
the civil servants, I'm afraid to say. Businesses, they want cheap labour, I'm afraid to say. And I blame some of the UK population who won't get off their sofas and do simple manual jobs, I'm afraid to say. And governments always promise more than they ever deliver, don't they?
Well, the cheap labour thing, at least Labour's got something to
What is Labour's idea?
What Labour would do is make sure that the moment that employers can bring in cheap labour 20% below the going rate, Labour would close that loophole, so they would have to pay the same wages that a Brit would get. That would stop them bringing in cheap labour, and that would cut the numbers a bit.
But we're ending up in this ridiculous position where we're gaining a population of a small city and we're not able to have the resources required, the infrastructure, and that is the problem. And we can't get anything done because we've got the European judges, and we've got the lefty lawyers who are stopping everything. So, Braverman and Rishi...
There are two things there. There is obviously the people who are crossing by boat, which I think all of us want to find a way of stopping. Then you've got these legal routes, legal migration, say the students. And bear in mind that they don't cost the public purse anything, that it's really expensive to come here as a student, that you need 1,500 quid to pay your NHS surcharge, so you don't cost the health service anything. You need to show you've got about £900 a month coming in, so you support yourself. Same goes for your wife and children. And what universities get, at least £10,000 in study fees, going up to about £40,000. So universities benefit hugely. We benefit from these people studying here, doing research, possibly staying a bit longer. So it's a question of actually
we're packed, we're full. It's a burden on our NHS, on our education, on our housing.
But is it Rishi's fault, though? Because you said, obviously, there's a catalogue of different politicians coming in, and one of the things he said is that they're going to stop students from being able to bring their family independence and people like that along, which I don't think any other country does anyway.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the point I'm making there is that's a knee-jerk reaction. It will cut numbers a little bit, but there aren't that many dependents coming in. It doesn't ever get to the issue.
22% of the total student population from foreign students.
And the reason for that is that universities rely on the income that those foreign students bring in. So we probably shouldn't be talking about figures, but actually categories. So the shortage occupation list, where a lot of people come in on, no one would object to nurses, care workers coming here, but ballet dancers are on that.
I think
archaeologists are on that.
Some people would slightly object to nurses and care workers coming here because it's not that we haven't got enough people who do the jobs, it's the fact that the wages are so low that no one with the half a brain would want to do it.
Well, then the answer is to raise the wages, isn't it?
That would be right, instead of bringing in more mass migration. It's not adding up, which is why a lot of people voted for Brexit, because we could see that the influx of people meant that the wages were sort of kept low, and which meant that the indigenous, or the people who actually live in this country and have to live by the rules of this country in terms of paying their mortgages and this and that, couldn't afford to take those jobs on.
But from that point of view, Brexit didn't work.
No. From that point of view, Brexit has worked. If you look at the truck drivers, as a result, we've had to pay the lorry drivers more. So my thing is the government needs to get their finger out and start paying more money to the people who deserve more money.
Can't we invest in our own British workforce?
Get people...
That's the thing, because we're bringing in more...
Let's do that. No, absolutely. Let's do that.
But, work is good. Work is good for your mental health. It gives you a focus.
We need to actually skill the workforce, and there should be programmes in place to do that, to fill these jobs that we're bringing in foreign labour to do. That's absolutely right. And this government has done nothing.
I don't think we can just blame Rishi, Nigel. We've got successive government. Look what Tony Blair did.
I think
Tony Blair was the start of all
this. He was the Tony Blair. Was the start of it.
Yeah, I think you actually blame successive governments for where we are at the moment. So it's not Rishi's fault that we've got this high migration figure at the moment. And as I say, if we're worried about the figures, they will come down. The Ukrainians will go home after the war. The Hong Kongers will obviously settle here. And those students...
But it is spiralling out of control. It's spiralling out of control.
I don't know whether the target is right to stop the students, but I do agree that not having their dependents and people like that being able to come as well, I think that's a bit...
But then they won't come either.
But we've also learnt that a lot of people stay after the university and then they do some of the menial jobs that don't really add much to the economy.
No, there's a loophole there that could be closed.
Yeah, so I think they should stop that. But I do think that really and truly the real crux of this is that big business are the only ones that get to take advantage of the cheap labour force, and we keep bringing people from other countries.
So don't allow them to get cheap labour.
No, but we just got to stop.
But governments turn to the old fix of taxation,
We've just got to stop. We've got to stop behaving like this. And right now we are going to take the hit, or because there'll be a lull in where we have to try and pay our own people more to get them up to standard, up to scratch with the right, the wages. Sorry, I think it's Nigel.
But governments turn to the old fix of taxation without spending on the real matters.
Yeah, I mean, no one is against the idea of British jobs for British workers. I think that's absolutely right. But you must have the skilled labour to do it. And at the moment, we have shortages in various areas. Well, why have we got those shortages? So the most recent ones put on the occupation shortage list are carpenters, roofers, joiners.
Because a lot of sadly, the UK population don't want to do simple manual work.
Those are skilled jobs. I mean, we're talking about skilled jobs there. So why haven't we been training people to do such jobs? And certainly, if we do that, we wouldn't need to bring in foreign workers. But at the moment, we do.
But we need to invest in the infrastructure.
Well, listen, this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices on their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. This hour, I'm going over to Bristol. Let's have a chat with Lee Harris. Lee Harris, do we blame Rishi Sunak for this particular disaster that we're in when it comes to immigration?
I blame Rishi for a lot of things, Nana, but I don't blame him specifically for this immigration crisis. I blame successive governments and parties for decades of incompetence and not having the will or intelligence to control it. All the talk of targets and bringing down the numbers over the years has been complete nonsense. They've been telling massive fibs for years. I blame the Blair's Labour government, which you've already been discussing, so I won't go over it to who started essentially an open border policy. I blame the influence of the EU. Immigration numbers exploded I think it was about 2004 when the Eastern Bloc countries joined. And I blame the Conservatives for doing absolutely nothing about it while they've been in power. And there seems to be no sign of this changing. But, what Lizzie was saying was spot on earlier. I also blame policies allowing companies to recruit abroad before they can advertise before they must advertise in the UK, and a dysfunctional welfare system that sees 5 million people on out-of-work benefits while there's jobs that need filling. But at the end of the day, I am personally a pro-controlled immigration Brexiteer. Overall, I believe that immigration can be beneficial when there's an economic need and we have the infrastructure and public services to support it. But it has to be controlled, or we end up in the utterly unsustainable situation we find ourselves in now.
Well, we are in this situation. We need to get out of it. I don't know how. But thank you very much, Lee Harris. Always the voice of reason and perfect sense. Right, he's our great British voice. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is the GBNews on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come. Stay tuned at 5 o'clock as this week's difficult conversation. And Jessica Alves will be live in the studio. Now, she can be described as a metamorphosis personified. A Brazilian TV personality born in Rodrigo, had her first nose job at 19 and has spent hundreds and thousands of pounds on plastic surgery ever since. Now, the public have followed her transformation on social media. She'll be joining me to talk us through all of that. But first, on the way next, it's Royal Roundup with royal biographer Angela Levin. On the menu, Prince William has paid tribute to the late Tina Turner by opening up about how her music brings back memories of his mother. We'll bring you all of those details and much more. Stay tuned.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing. We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Hello, good afternoon. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome on board. If you've just joined me, remember you can stream the show live on YouTube as well. But now there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. Tina Turner passing has led to Prince William to open up about how the pop legend's music had an impact on his childhood. And the Duchess of Edinburgh has become the first royal to visit Baghdad. Meanwhile, according to the reports, Prince Harry has a room set aside in a luxury hotel where he can stay without his wife, Meghan Markle. Interesting. So each Saturday, I like to give you a rundown, and who better to do that than the royal biographer herself, Angela Levin. Angela, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me. Right, let's start, Angela. You look fabulous today. Should we start with Harry and Meghan? Should we go with that first, or...?
Okay, Harry and Meghan, if you like. I know you'd like to do that first. But what's interesting is they have to pay almost £117,000 council tax, the equivalent of council tax. And it's from their local area. And in it, it tells you what they've got. Library, cinema, gym, spa, pool, tennis court, 7 bedrooms, 16 bathrooms reduced to 13. I don't know what's going on in there. But anyway, so why would somebody want to go and stay in a hotel to get away? I mean, it seems very odd. One of the hotels, it's permanently booked for him, which sounds to me that it's something where he can rush to if things are bad. Is she shouting at him? Is he feeling depressed? He's obviously going out. There's another hotel with a gym, which he also reserves places to. I think it's a real tragic situation because it means he can't get up for the kids if they need him. He won't be there first thing in the morning. I mean, it's a distance, isn't it? And the distance between them seems to get longer and wider.
It's all very odd, isn't it? What about the Duchess of Edinburgh then in Baghdad? What's the story there?
It's absolutely wonderful. It's the first royal who's been to Baghdad, and she was talking about women who are violently treated there. Now, what's interesting is she didn't go with a scarf. She just had a normal hairdo. She was met by the president and by the prime minister, and she was there in secret for the 3 days. The Foreign Office had asked her to go, and she went there. And if you hear some of her speeches and you look at her, she's so calm, she's so sophisticated, and so caring about women being, properly treated, that I thought it was a wonderful decision by the Foreign Office. And actually, she seemed to do it in the small bits that they let us see very well. I mean, I think she needs to be much more respected in this country because there's so much going on that she just quietly gets on with her work. But I think we should acknowledge that she's travelling a lot, very loyal and doing a terrific job.
And what about Charles and Camilla then? They're in Ireland, aren't they?
Yes, they're in Ireland, and they had a wonderful reception there. They went to open a new garden specially for the coronation, and you could see the difference between them on that amazing day of the coronation and now, when they were relaxed. And there's one shot taken of Camilla putting her hand round her husband's back and smiling and laughing and talking to the... And they met two. One was called Camilla, one was called Charles. They were there with sort of phony crowns. And Camilla made a lot of jokes about that. And she's just very natural with children. And you could see, we've done it, mate. And they can now relax and get on tremendously well and do the job.
And what about Prince William and Tina Turner?
Yeah. This is very, very touching because he says, they listened to it in the car, and he says it felt like a real family moment. And you think, and my mother should be driving along singing on the top of her voice. We'd even get the policeman in the car. He'd be occasionally singing along as well. So that shows that's before they split, Diana and Charles split, because then she didn't have a protection officer on her insistence. But I think that... he says it brings back lots of memories of my mother. And you see his memories are positive, they're nice, they're warm, and very, very moving.
Well, it's lovely, isn't it? Listen, Angela Levin, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. That is the fabulous royal biographer, Angela Levin. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. If you've just tuned in, welcome on board. I'm Nana Akua. There's still loads more to come in the next hour. So good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. For the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. On the way at 5, I'll be speaking to Jessica Alves, born Rodrigo, who spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on plastic surgery. Stay tuned for that one. And then for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should ITV axe this morning? But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Nana. I'm Rory Smith in the GB Newsroom. ITV says it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. The broadcaster says they were questioned after hearing rumours, but both men denied they were seeing each other. The TV presenter resigned yesterday after admitting he had an affair with a young male colleague, which he described as unwise but not illegal. He told the Daily Mail he lied about the relationship to his wife, to his colleagues, to his friends and to his agents. Mail and Sunday journalist Charlotte Griffiths says people in the industry must have known.
There was a video of him having lunch in a cafe with this young man, although I think he was 18 at the time. So it was the worst kept secret. You have to take him at his word. Holly must have asked him about this. People around him must have asked him about this, and he must have lied. That's what he said, and that's all we know right now.
Well, GB News presenter and former This Morning host Eamon Holmes has hit out at his ex-colleague, saying he's finally been caught out. On social media, he said 4 high members of ITV management knew what sort of man he was and never once took action to prevent him controlling or taking advantage of his position over young people. Well, showbiz reporter Ellie Phillips told us that Schofield's actions were more than inappropriate.
He's saying it's not illegal, but it's also about an abuse of power, because Phillip Schofield is was the face of This Morning in a massive position of power, and then you've got a runner who, in the scheme of things within the scene, within how it works behind the scenes, is much lower down the rung in terms of power. So it's about that power imbalance, I think.
Well, in other news this afternoon, air passengers have been voicing their frustrations following a nationwide border control system failure. Thousands of people travelling for the bank holiday are facing delays following a technical fault affecting e-gates. Well, the Home Office says it is working to resolve the problem with the electronic system, which is operated by Border Force. The UK's biggest airport, Heathrow, says it's trying to manage queues and is working with authorities to fix the issue as quickly as possible. Well, meanwhile, passengers at the port of Dover are also experiencing delays. That's following an earlier IT issue at border control. Apologising for the disruption, the Port Authority says the problem has now been fixed, but there are still queues, with cars and coaches waiting around 45 minutes. A man who was arrested after a car crashed into the Downing Street gates has been charged with making indecent images of children. The 43-year-old was initially detained on suspicion of dangerous driving. That was following Thursday's incident, but officers were later seen searching the boot of the car before it was towed away. He's been remanded in custody after appearing in court on the unrelated offence and will reappear next month. 2 Just Stop Oil protesters have been arrested for disrupting the Gallagher Premiership rugby final at Twickenham. 37-year-old Dr. Patrick Hart from Bristol and 40-year-old Sam Johnson from Essex ran onto the pitch. That was midway through the first half of the game before throwing orange paint powder onto the field. Well, play was suspended as the men were escorted from the stadium by stewards. Former First Minister of Northern Ireland, Arlene Foster, believes the DUP could do a deal with Labour as it works to restore a power-sharing government. Well, speaking to Gloria De Piero, the GB News presenter says a coalition could be formed if the next general election delivers a hung parliament.
Would it be fanciful to even think that there could ever be any sort of agreement with the Labour Party in the DUP?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And I think there is quite good relationships with the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, the Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Peter Kyle, and indeed with Sir Keir as well. So no, not at all.
And you can watch the full interview with Arlene Foster. That's on Gloria Meets. You can catch that tomorrow at 6 o'clock. But finally for now, a 6-year-old boy who's climbing 12 mountains to raise money for charity is preparing for his final hike. Oscar Barrow from Lancaster, who was inspired by Sir Edmund Hillary, said he wanted to be the youngest person ever to climb Everest. Well, to help him achieve his goal, his dad tallied up the peaks, which include Snowdon and Scawfell Pike, so that they'd be similar height to Everest. He's due to climb Ben Nevis on Monday and has already raised more than £30,000 for Darien House Children's Hospice in Chorley. Very best of luck to him. Well, this is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now, though, back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's coming up to 6 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. And this show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we'll disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Still to come, it's this week's difficult conversation. Now, we'll be discussing with a fabulous lady. She has been through an incredible transformation, and we'll be finding out all about that. Then also, we'll be asking in the Great British Debate, should ITV axe this morning? ITV said it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. Now, this comes as a TV presenter admitted to having a relationship with a younger colleague. So is it time to get rid of the show altogether and have a fresh start? Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com, or tweet me at GBNews. So, welcome back. Let's turn to a couple of stories about transgender women in sport. I mentioned them earlier in Muck the Week, but it's been decided by British Cycling that cyclists who were born male have to be banned from racing in elite female British cycling events. To me, that is pretty obvious. Under a new policy, racing will be split into two categories, female and opens, and a biological woman has been deprived of a parkrun second record after a trans athlete beat her. Deb Roberts, who held the record since 2018, was robbed. Let's see what my panel think of that. I'm asking you, Lizzie Cundy. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
I think it's about time. I can't understand why it was even an issue.
Well, it's a great decision because it's unfair competition, let's be honest. You know, it isn't fair. And, you know, I'm sorry to say, when they dig you up in 300 years' time, your bones will say you're a man, and the DNA is different, and it's very unfair.
Nigel?
Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. I'm in favour of making it as easy as possible for people to change their gender.
Why? Really?
Yes, yeah. I mean,
So
it affects very few people. It shouldn't be a matter for government apart from to remove barriers. But once you've done that, you have to work out where things might go wrong and correct them. And sport is the obvious example. So the idea of saying that you must be a biological female to do a women's event, especially if it's actually a strenuous one, obviously not snooker or darts or something, but if it's cycling, seems to be the right kind of way forward.
You said that you'd make it easier, though. I don't think... Why would you do that? I mean, you saw what happened in Scotland when they decided to try and make it easy. The unfortunate, as you said, it's only a small proportion of people. Therefore, by making it easier, then will affect a larger proportion when people take advantage of it, as we've seen immediately, as soon as there was the opportunity.
Well, I mean, I'm broadly in favour of the gender reforms in Scotland, and the point is that it was always going to throw up various anomalies, and one of the things was going to be sport. Another, as the Scots found, what happened when you sent a biologically male rapist into a woman's prison. So they had to sort that one out. So the whole load of things that have to be dealt with along the way. But I think that government should stay as much out of it as possible because it's a personal decision.
But the trans community need to be treated with kindness and understanding.
Absolutely.
Sadly, people like Nicola Sturgeon, who we've seen, use them as political footballs to score points, and it is very unfair.
But she was trying to remove barriers to actually being able to change gender. And that's all government should do. Government shouldn't be there to try and dictate. It is a personal decision. It affects very few people, and most of them just want to live quietly and as they want to live.
I'm sorry, I disagree with you, Nigel. I think it's a war on women.
It's interesting, though, and it's not against you, Nigel, but it's always men who seem to be saying that. But, like, if you listen to most women, women will tell you, no, that's not acceptable, because we know that we will be we'll be the ones who get affected by that. Whilst it might be a small thing where someone says, oh, no, it's fine, then you get a mediocre man saying that he's a woman and then competing in a woman's sport and taking a record away, as has happened in the parkrun, from a woman who's held the record. Yeah. And it's not even... So, therefore, on that scale, you've made it nice and easy for somebody to say they're a woman, as you said, that they do that, and then they end up in sport. That can't be...
No, that can't be right. And that's why that should be sorted out. It's happening in tennis as well. I mean, Martina Navratilova has put forward a very similar proposal for tennis, and I think that's right, that if you've got physical advantages, you should not be competing...
does over a woman.
Of course, exactly. So if you have got that, you shouldn't be competing in women's sport. I do take that point.
I just feel I am silenced and feel intimidated if I speak out about this, and I think it is really unfair on women. And, you know, we've got them sulking because they're against, you know, they want to be in this. It's not fair, because we're weaker.
But that's why the anomalies have to be sorted out. So it's actually safe space for women, so when it comes down to changing areas, toilets and things like that. I understand all that. It's just that I think that it's not the biggest issue with the public. And I think
it really is.
As again, it's always often the men that say it's not the biggest issue.
I do take your point about men say it, women may not.
Because
Yes.
What if somebody said to you, "Can a man have a vagina?" Does that now sound a bit ridiculous to you?
No, I think that's a possibility.
No,
because
it will be the downfall of the Labour Party.
What is a woman then?
Yeah.
Well,
what is a woman, Nigel?
A woman can self-identify, so therefore a woman can have a penis. And in the same way,
it's a biological thing. So how can a woman have a penis?
No, that you can be, your biological sex and your gender are two different things.
So you're saying a woman is a gender. And you're saying woman is a gender rather than
yes, you have a biological sex and then you have a gender.
So when did that happen? When did that detachment happen? Who agreed to it? I didn't agree with that. I've never agreed to
Well, it's probably happened right through history, in fact.
Nigel, come on.
Nigel, do you know what? This will be the downfall of the Labour Party because Keir Starmer can't say what a woman is, and this will be the downfall of them.
Neither can Ed Davey, by the way.
Yes, that was embarrassing.
And they're talking about a Lib Lad pack, so the two of them are out.
Clearly not me either.
And you, Nigel.
Right, well, thank you so much to my panellists. Now, I'm very excited to say that my next guest is metamorphosis personified. Now, she is a Brazilian TV personality. Her name is Jessica Alves. She was born Rodrigo, had a first nose job at 19 and has spent hundreds and thousands of pounds on plastic surgery ever since. Now, Jessica grew up in Brazil and moved to London when she was 19 to study at the London School of Economics. Before working as an air steward, happy in her career but unhappy with her looks, she made tweaks to her body and to try and reach what she called male perfection, a fascination to the public who followed her transformation on social media. She came out as transgender in January 2020 and changed her name to Jessica later that year. But why? Well, the aim at first was to look like a Ken doll, but after that, well, let's ask her, because she's joining me live in the studio. So he's welcome to Jessica Alves. Jessica, thank you very much for joining me.
Hello, lovely to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Lovely to meet you, crikey. So, Jessica, talk to me. At 19, you decided to start all this transformation.
Yeah, so at the age of 19, I started my transformation with the help of plastic surgeons and the best doctors in the world. Now, at the age of 39, soon to be 40, I am a woman.
Yeah, so talk to me about this. So you did the nose job initially, and so what was the order of surgery? And, you know, sometimes, because I think a lot of people don't understand why people feel that they need to change into something different in terms of their gender. So what was it about you that felt that you needed to do
I
that?
think that most of us, we are unhappy with our appearances. Daily basis, we try to change our appearances with makeup and injectables, Botox and fillers, a different hairdo, but it's never good enough. So then, thankfully, with technology nowadays and good doctors out there, they're there actually to help us to achieve the image that we have in our minds and be able to project that daily basis into society. Everything started for nose job. I wasn't happy with it, and I wasn't happy with my appearance, not even my gender. But I didn't have any knowledge back in time about how to transition and if that was actually possible. I knew that I was a woman from a very young age, but throughout the years I tried my best to be a man. I tried my best to live as a man, but I failed badly because I was so unhappy. And then I kept having surgeries to modify my appearance to actually make me look like a man. Because I was born, genetically speaking, I am a biological male. And I was nicknamed as the Human Life Ken doll. It was never my aim to look like a doll or have that nickname. But I took that as a compliment because, you know, we all know that the Barbie doll and Ken doll portrayed the perfection of female and male body form. So I was quite flattered with that. So I lived with that nickname for years, which developed into a very successful career in television so far, more than 700 television shows in 24 countries.
Really?
Yeah, as I speak 6 languages fluently. And I also got a good degree in this country.
You're clever. You went to
I have invested in my appearance throughout the years, but also I have invested also in my education. I wanted to be the best person that I could possibly be, just not aesthetically, visually, but also intellectually and culturally speaking.
Because you're intelligent. I mean, you went to the LSE, London School of Economics.
I went to LTC, London College of Communication and Arts, actually. I studied PR and communications. Yeah.
You have to be pretty intelligent to go to those, though, full stop. And
yeah, I would like to believe that I'm an intelligent person, and I would like to, and I'm sure that my choices throughout the years to modify my appearance and my body has been wise, because today I can confirm that I am a very happy woman. I just wish that I transitioned much earlier in my life.
So when you say transition, everybody thinks, do you go through the whole thing, or is it just visually appearance? Because I'm not being nosy, but I think a lot of people will be... Go on then, tell me. Have you had it all snipped off?
Yes.
Really? Yeah. You've had it all done?
Yeah, I am just like any woman. And I have had... all the surgeries to be a woman. I have changed all my documents, including my birth certificate. I can get married. I'm Christian Catholic, so I can get even married at the church. My birth certificate has been changed, all my passports, my identity. Also have had a gender reassignment surgery. I have a functional female organ, and I am a woman, I look like one, I sound like one, and yeah, I'm just really happy.
So what are there must be some downsides there, because, you know, like I spoke to Scott Nugent, who went from female to male, and he really deeply regrets it, but obviously there's nothing he can do about it now. He's gone through all of it. So, because, you know, a lot of young people some people will look at you and aspire to be like you, but what in reality, in terms of, do you have to take medicine all the time? Do you have to take medicine all the time?
Yeah, it's nowadays, at the day and age that we are living, we are seeing a lot of people like myself. I'm not the only one. So you're seeing a lot of people actually changing their genders. It is something which is very common around the world, not only in this country. It is a very big decision. It's not easy. It's very expensive. It is unhealthy, because obviously we're going through so many surgeries. One has to be very mentally strong, not only physically strong. Having the support of the family and good doctors, it's really important. My transition in the beginning was very, very difficult. I lost a lot. I lost so many jobs that I had, so many brand collaborations that didn't want to have nothing to do with me anymore. Many doors closed. But now, after nearly 4 years living as Jessica Alves, doors are opening again to me, and people are starting to respect me and see me with different eyes. This is not vanity, this is not fashion, this is not beauty. This is just someone who wanted to be happy. And then I had 2 choices, live or die. I reached a wall that I was so depressed living as a man that I had 2 choices, which was to transition and live my life, or basically to end everything. So I've chosen to live, and life is beautiful. And but it is a difficult journey. It's not easy. I inspire a lot of people around the world. I'm on television pretty much every day in different countries, and nowadays I don't talk so much about myself, because there's so much about me online, people already know. And I inspire a lot of people out there to follow their dreams, to be the best version that they can possibly be, daily basis. And if cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery is right for you, you make you happier, definitely go for it.
But what do you think of the conversation with regard to, because there's trans people in women's sport, so trans women in women's sport? How do you feel about that particular conversation? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that people in society, they overcomplicate. We are all humans, we are all skin and bones, and we all need equal opportunities out there. There are a lot of highly skilled athletes out there that are transgender, and they should be respected, they should be given opportunities, which they do. But then there's a conversation that says that a biological male is stronger than a biological female competing at a sport. I agree with that. But then one needs to go through a hormone therapy. The hormone therapy, it's a long process, and one will see the effect of the hormone just after 2 years. So we're talking about the fairness and also skills and the ability to do something. And obviously someone who is a biological male will be stronger and they will have more advantage than a biological female. I agree with that. But then one has to understand that needs to go through a medical treatment first.
There needs to be a proper category.
I see a lot of people out there, and then I get very much criticized when I say this, but this is my opinion, but that's the reality as well. A lot of people out there that do, and then I speak on behalf of the transgender community, there are a lot of people out there that are transgender and are born male and self-identify as a female, but they just put some women's clothes on, a dress, and some makeup on, say, I'm a woman, or it's not. You have to go through a treatment, go and see a psychological treatment, go through a hormone therapy to make sure that you're doing the right thing and that is right for you.
And can I ask, are you offended if people say, if a woman says that a trans woman is not a woman, a trans woman is a trans woman, and a woman is a woman? Is that offensive to you?
It's very offensive. It is very offensive because I'm almost just like any other. I just can't get pregnant. Rather than that, it is all pretty much, it's the same, identical. I go to gynecologist like most female does, and even the doctors, they can't tell any difference. But it is how I feel. It is my soul, my brain, my mind, my skin, my smell. I am a woman from head to toe, not only because I look feminine and I did all the surgeries to have a female appearance and a voluptuous, beautiful female body, but it is how my brain processes it. And people don't say on my face, out and about, when people, they see me, they get overwhelmed and take pictures and give me lots of love, but I get a lot of bullies on my social network.
We all get those, they come from me as well.
Most of the bullies are actually biological female.
Well, listen, Jessica, I could talk to you forever, but people can follow you on your socials, Jessica.
Yes, people can follow me on my Instagram. It is Jessica Alves UK.
Thank you, Jessica, for coming in. I really appreciate that. Good to talk to you. That is Jessica Alves. She was my difficult conversation. So what do you think? I mean, you know, we'd love to hear all your thoughts as ever. Stay tuned, though, because on the way it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should ITV axe this morning? ITV said it's found no evidence of the relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. Now, this comes as the TV presenter admitted to having a relationship with a younger colleague. So is it time to get rid of the show altogether and start all over again?
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome on board GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's just coming up to 28 minutes after 5 o'clock. And it's time now for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should ITV axe this morning? Now, it says that it's deeply disappointed by Phillip Schofield's deceit after he admitted to an affair with a young man. This morning, colleague, now the veteran presenter, has left the channel with a grovelling apology for the affair, lying to ITV, his agents who dropped him, the media and therefore the public and his family, pretty much everyone. Phillip stepped down from the show last week amid reports of a fallout with his co-star Holly Willoughby. So is this morning a sinking ship with one part of the presenting helm gone and one merely hanging on? Can the show be steered back on course, or will Schofield take the rest of the crew down with him? I'm joined now by Reem Ibrahim, she's a political commentator, Sam Dowler, a journalist and broadcaster, Sarah Lewis-Robertson, showbiz journalist, and Katie Banks, showbiz journalist as well. Right, I'm going to start with you, Katie Banks. Is this a sinking ship? Are the rats scuttering away now really fast, disassociating themselves with him?
I think definitely not, Nana. I mean, this morning is the longest running show on British TV in daytime, and they're not going to want to lose a brand like that. It's hugely popular. They did a relaunch back in 2009, so I think maybe the best way of getting over this situation is maybe coming up with a relaunch, rebranding it a bit, and then people won't associate it maybe with the Phillip Schofield scandal. I think they need to think very carefully what they're doing when Holly comes back from holiday.
Reem?
Well, we've got to remember Phillip's been around and is the brand for the past 30 years, and we've seen over the past week since he left, the viewing numbers have actually dropped by 170,000. So, unfortunately, I think as Phillip Schofield has left, and this morning we'll have to go with him, what ITV really need to do is totally rebrand their breakfast show and actually instead have a completely new show where they can hopefully rebrand and totally put the stuff behind them.
With new people. Sarah Louise, what do you think?
Hi there. I agree with your colleague above there. Yes, the whole thing is toxic now. I've been told by my ITV insider that there's a lot of angry people at ITV. Internally, there's a lot of questions being asked. It's a toxic environment and there's a lot of distress going on among what the heads of the channel have known about this, and the timeline not adding up as well. They've also said to me that they want to see an investigation go on into the channel as to what has taken place and why things have been covered up there. And they think there needs to be a boycott of the show and then the show be rebranded with an entire new team of talent. Maybe even you on there, Nana, on the sofa.
They couldn't afford me, darling. They couldn't afford me. I don't want to go down with that ship. It's toxic. Sam Dowler, you must be in Oz. Sam Dowler from Australia.
I'm actually in Los Angeles now, Nana. I'm
fishing
around. I'm on my way back to you.
Oh, that's nice. So what do you think then? Have you've heard the gossip, then you've heard what's gone on. Phillip has lied to pretty much everybody. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I've met the guy in question. I've met him like 3 years ago. I've known about this story for a long time, and the thing is, Phil's done nothing but deny it. So the people, the top brass at ITV can claim and say that they didn't know, and it was just rumour, and it was just this, and the buck stops with Phil, and if he's the one saying no, look, nothing happened, then he's put them in jeopardy. He's put the ITV big bosses in jeopardy. He's put the whole cast and crew of This Morning in jeopardy. And like, I have friends that work on it. I'm sure everybody on this panel has people they know that work on This Morning, and we obviously want our friends and colleagues to keep their jobs, whether it means the public have lost faith in This Morning, like in a way sort of like they did with X Factor, when you start to feel like you're getting hoodwinked by the show that you're watching, you don't generally want to watch it anymore. So that's the whole thing with This Morning. I mean, I get what Sarah Louise is saying about boycotting, but boycotts don't really work. I mean, like, people want to see that sort of comfort viewing.
But they got rid of Jeremy Kyle's show. They took Jeremy Kyle's show straight off there. It's gone.
That's true. Like, but at the end of the day, like, if people, it rises and falls on the viewership and the advertisers, and if people jump ship, then they will change it.
Well, Katie seems to think that they'll be fine. Katie, you said
I just think This Morning is a bigger show than Phil Schofield. And although he's been the latest presenter, Alison and Dermot still are pulling in massive viewings. Only last year they were getting their largest viewing ever at 1.4 million. And I just feel like they're still successful. They're still getting massive advertisers. At the moment, would have got a 10-week deal with them to...
No, that's because they've got nothing else to watch. They may not have heard about GB News. What about... They need to switch over and watch Bev and Andrew. Or even Eamon. Eamon's pretty good on there, isn't he? What about you then?
Eamon.
Eamon's great. I mean, like, if you've seen some of the clips of the things he's been saying, Reem, what do you think, finally?
I think Eamon's fantastic. And yeah, look, when we're looking at the comparisons between viewing numbers, that 4 million was just a blip. It really does not characterise the entire show. This Morning is Phil and Holly, and without them, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to see the show be scrapped.
Well, I don't know whether that's unfortunate or not. Reem Ibrahim, thank you very much, political commentator. Sam Dowler in LA, journalist and broadcaster. He'll be back next week. Sarah Louise Robertson, she's a showbiz journalist, and Katie Banks, showbiz journalist as well. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. So that's there for What's What Are Yours. Now, a spokesperson for ITV said the broadcaster was deeply disappointed by the admissions of deceit made by Phillip Schofield. Phillip has admitted having an affair with a much younger man, 30 years younger, who worked with him on This Morning and who he first met as a teenager. He said he's deeply sorry for having lied to his wife and ITV about his relationship, calling it unwise but not illegal. He's resigned from ITV over the lies, etc., etc. Right, so if you just joined me, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. We'll continue that great British debate this hour. I'm asking, should ITV axe This Morning? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Nana. I'm Rory Smith in the GB newsroom. Well, as you've been hearing, ITV says it found no evidence of a relationship between Phillip Schofield and another employee during an investigation in 2020. The broadcaster says the pair were questioned after hearing rumours, but both men denied they were seeing each other. The TV presenter resigned yesterday after admitting he did have an affair with a young male colleague, which he described as unwise but not illegal. Air passengers have been voicing their frustrations following a nationwide border control system failure. Thousands of people travelling for the bank holiday are facing delays following a technical fault affecting e-gates. Well, the Home Office says it is working to resolve the problem with the electronic system, which is operated by Border Force. The UK's biggest airport, Heathrow, says it's trying to manage queues and is working with authorities to fix the issue as quickly as possible. Well, staying with travel news, and passengers at the port of Dover are also experiencing delays. That's because of an earlier IT issue at border control. Apologising for the disruption, the Port Authority says the problem has now been fixed, but there are still queues with cars and coaches waiting around 45 minutes at the moment. 2 Just Stop Oil protesters have been arrested for disrupting the Gallagher Premiership rugby final at Twickenham. 37-year-old Dr. Patrick Hart from Bristol and 40-year-old Sam Johnson from Essex ran onto the pitch during the first half before throwing orange paint powder onto the field. Play was suspended as the men were escorted from the stadium by stewards. That's it from me for now, but you can get more on all of those stories by visiting our website. That is gbnews.com. Now though, back to Nana.
Thank you, Rory. It's fast approaching 37 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Now, still to come, it's my quick fire quiz where I'll be quizzing my panellists and you at home about some of the other stories of the day. Do not go anywhere.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
afternoon. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. If you just tuned in, where on earth have you been? I'm Nana Akua. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time now for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should ITV axe this morning? Now, ITV says it is deeply disappointed by Phillip Schofield's deceit after he admitted to an affair with a young This Morning colleague. Now, the veteran presenter has left the channel with a grovelling apology for lying about the affair, lying to ITV, lying to his agents. I think he lied to his lawyers. He's basically lied to everyone. Obviously, the agent has dropped him, the media, and therefore the public aren't happy because he's lied to us. And, of course, he's lied to his family. He described the relationship as unwise but not illegal, saying that whilst he met the man when he was a teenager, it was only after he started to work on the show that it became more than just a friendship. Phillip stepped down from the show last week, stepped down in speech marks, because I don't think he would have stepped down if he hadn't been pushed. Amid reports of the fallout with his co-star Holly Willoughby, the pair's reputation has failed to get back to the peak of its pedestal since being wrapped up in Q-Gate. You remember that? Last year when they were accused of jumping the queue. Well, I think they did jump the queue, but even though they say they didn't, during the Queen's lying in state. So is This Morning a sinking ship, with one part of the presenting team gone and one merely simply hanging on? Can the show be steered back on course, or will Schofield take the rest of the crew down with him? Do you like all my little puns on boats? No, I haven't got to the sinking ship yet, but I will do. Let's see what my panel maker then. I'm joined by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. I'm going to start with you, Lizzie. As you know, you've been on there this morning. You know them all.
Yes, I do. And I love the show, and I really hope it can continue going. I think they need to reboot it and they can get this back. But obviously, they just need to maybe have new presenters. I mean, I love Alison Hammond. She's a friend of mine. And I think they can make it work. They just need to reboot the show. And hopefully it won't be tarnished with all what's going on with Phillip.
I'd take the first two letters out there. Boot the show out.
Yeah, well, I'm on that side, yeah. I mean, I would scrap it but keep the formula. I think that the formula works really well. The idea of doing some serious interviews, some human interest stories, some celebrity, some trivia, all that kind of works. So the formula, I mean, when I used to do the show myself, I used to be really impressed with a mixture, although often I get the celebrities confused with the human interest people. It was a bit embarrassing in the green room. But I think that formula for that part of the morning, yes, keep it, but no, the show has to go. Call it something different.
Call it something else.
Yeah,
find some different people, do it that way.
It's such a well-known name.
I think that's the problem, don't you think?
Yeah, but they can rebrand it. They can get new presenters, because, as you said, the crux of the show, the concept of the show is fabulous, and it's worked for years and years and years. It's won awards, NTA awards, BAFTAs. It has got...
But can't they
don't break it, just change the presenters.
But can't they do something else? I mean, like, you know, I would think that, you know, with all that, this is a chance for them to come up with some other ideas. Why does it have to be the same old thing? And the main criticism I'd have of ITV is that they do keep regurgitating the exact same people all the time. So, like, you've got Dancing on Ice, the same two people. Then you've got Ant and Dec. Fine, they're great.
Well, that won't be the whole Dancing on Ice won't be the same. Yeah, but it's all about the ratings.
But it literally waits for something bad to happen before they ever give anybody an opportunity. And I think that was, you know, all the years. I mean, I'm not bitter. But all the years I knocked on that flaming door, and they weren't prepared to open it, because they do not allow for any... I think it's too much of a big risk, because they've got all these advertisers. They only want people who are already known, and I think
they have changed presenters before. Look, they've changed John Leslie from Britain.
Well, again, you're listing people. John Leslie was through a scandal that he had to go, which is why Phillip Schofield was... by the way. Yeah, but which is why Phillip Schofield was there. They wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Yeah, but I do think it's a winning formula, and I think it still has legs. I think it can go on. They just need to revamp it, and I think it can work. It's all about the ratings. As Sky Andrew said earlier, it's about the ratings. That's all they're.
What if they get rid of everybody that's there now and start again completely fresh?
That's what I would go for.
I mean, as in all of them. So, like, I mean, I like them all. They all seem nice, but get rid of Dermot, get rid of Alison, get rid of all those names, and just completely...
give new people a chance and see who works. I mean, you'll soon see by the audiences, won't you?
Isn't it time that it literally refreshed itself and started?
But you can see when Phillip stopped presenting and when Alison went on, the ratings went up. She's a winner and people like watching her.
Maybe they didn't like him, though.
Possibly, but it will all be about the ratings. That will be the crux of this show,
Well,
whether it lasts or
maybe
not.
if somebody else completely different as well goes on with Alison, the ratings might go even higher. But, you know, like, it's all very well staying with the same thing, as if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this is broken, so I would say start again. See if you can find something way more interesting, engaging, and start with new people.
Yeah, I think Esther McVeigh this morning on GB was saying that it's a bit like the News of the World, that what happened there was that the product itself was broken because of the hacking scandal. It reinvented itself as The Sun on Sunday, which worked.
Exactly.
It's all going to be about the ratings. Who's watching the show? If the ratings plummet and people get turned off, they'll have to change the show and do another format.
I think people are probably sick of it anyway. I think I was sick of the same people all the time. It's just, you know, I think that it's nice to have a variety. It's always important. But as ever, this show is nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing today. I've got three of you. Let's go. Let's start with Dr. Seshni Moodlia in Milton Keynes. Seshni, what do you think? Is it time to axe that show?
Good afternoon, Nana. No, I don't think they should axe it. I understand what everyone is saying, but I think I agree with Lizzie, Nigel, and what you said, Nana. The show probably needs a whole new revamp. It needs new presenters. It's unfortunate what has happened, and I think ITV has apologised, but hopefully with some new, fresh faces, the show can go on.
Would you get rid of, like, Dermot, Alison, all that, and then just rename it something else? Because I'm saying axe it and start again. Lizzie says keep it. She's saying it's a great brand. You agree with all of us? So what do you mean? Get rid of it? Axe it?
No, keep it, as Lizzie said.
Keep it. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Jackie Sampson. She's there in St Albans. Jackie.
Hello, Nana. I think that whilst it's not past its use-by date, it's definitely getting past its sell-by date as best before. I think the magazine format has got tired. I think it's something we want to watch in the mornings, but I think it's gone on too long. It needs to start all over again. And I certainly feel that the stench of scandal brings down people in the business world. We've seen it with people mentioned John Leslie. So whether they're guilty, innocent, I think it just corrodes everybody around them. And I think the only way is to basically spring clean and start again. Have new people. Have you. Have me.
Would you call it something else? Or would you... maybe instead of this morning, it'd be that morning.
Moaning.
Lee, let's go to Lee. Lee Webb, he's there in Bedford. Lee, what do you think?
I think the formula can work. However, we've seen Alison Hammond, we've seen Dermot Mulleary. They praised Philip sort of like last week, and how the news has changed within a few days. I think the programme's tainted. I think a lot of staff is going to probably need changing. Certainly the presenters are, because the presenters that supported Philip last week may not wish they had supported him last week. Next week it's happening. And even some of the news channels now, the story's changing pretty fast, and I think they're drip feeding us for more news tomorrow, so it could even change tomorrow. So I think the whole formula, keep it, but I think they're going to have to change the staff and the whole programme. They've got to get rid of it, probably.
Get rid of it. I'm looking forward to reading my Daily Mail tomorrow.
Advertising just going to be coming away from the show.
Yeah, advertisers will be pulling away. I mean, seriously, thank you very much, my brilliant voices. Seshni in Milton Keynes, Jack in St Albans and Lee in Bedford. Thank you so much. Good to talk to you guys. Right, let's move to another story that caught my eye today. Instances of violence on airplanes linked to drunk passengers have increased in the past few years. According to reports from UK airlines, there were nearly triple the amount of disruptive behaviour cases in 2022 when compared to 2019. So should airlines ban booze? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by Lizzie Cundy and also Nigel Nelson. Nigel, should it be banned? Lizzie, no point asking you. No point asking her.
I don't drink, but I wouldn't ban it either. No, it shouldn't be banned.
You don't drink?
No, I don't. No, no, I haven't drunk for nearly 20 years now.
Why? Is there some reason?
It was a health thing, yeah. I drank too much.
I see, one of them.
So, yeah, that's right.
Oh, no.
I don't drink at all now. I'd feel great.
It's very sensible, though. I think that's very sensible.
But I still, despite that, I don't think that you should ban it on aeroplanes what you should do is police it better. At the moment, different airlines have different rules. The answer is they should get together, have a kind of yellow card system, if you like. So if passengers misbehave, once it's 3 strikes, every airline says you can't fly for a year.
That's all right. Lizzie, what do you think? Ban it.
As soon as I get to the airport, I'm like, where's the bar? It's the whole joy of going away.
Yeah.
And I remember once being out at the bar at Heathrow, and they were like, Mrs. Gundy, your flight is about to take off. I was ordering another Bloody Mary. But I'm scared of flying, so I feel a drink helps calm my nerves, to be honest.
Yeah,
and I think it's very sad. I don't like banning anything. I'm against banning things.
Yeah, no, I don't think we should.
You're responsible for yourself.
Yeah, and I quite like just one drink before you get on the plane, or well, 1 or 2 you get on the... But there are some people who, when they start drinking the red Mr. Pierce, you don't want them on the flight, so there is...
And they're the ones you steal with.
They're the ones
they can get thrown off, you know. Don't enjoy our own
Why should we all be punished for
Yes.
the people who can't help themselves? Right there, stay with me. It's time for our quick-fire quiz. That's a part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. Please play along at home. I'm joined by broadcast room columnist Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie, your buzzer, please. And also GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Nigel, your buzzle.
My buzzle? There's my buzzle.
Right, you ready at home? Right, question 1. This week, there was a large gathering of men sharing the same name, but what was the name? Was it Kyle, Daniel or Peter? Lizzie?
I'm going to say Kyle.
You're going to say Kyle?
Peter.
No, you go press your buzzer. I can't. Peter, let's see if you're right. The answer is Kyle, yes. 1,500 people named Kyle travelled to Texas to a city called Kyle. Right, a bit like Jeremy Kyle.
Yes.
Right, question 2. An article in the Daily Mail has revealed how many kilograms of chips the average UK resident consumes annually, but how many kilos was it? The closest answer wins. Press your buzzers, please.
I don't actually know this.
8 kilos.
OK, Lizzie, press your buzzer.
10.
10 kilos at home. OK, let's see. The answer is 30. Wow! Lizzie Gundy is on a winning streak, 30 kilograms. She's not usually on a winning streak, so it is unusual.
Quite enjoying it.
Right, the average UK resident consumes about 30 kilograms of chips a year. That is quite a bit of chips. Right, question 3. The Cornish town of Falmouth was host to which bizarre competition this week? Was it A, pastry eating, B, worm charming, or C, sofa surfing? Lizzie Gundy.
I'm going to go C.
C, sofa surfing?
Yep, worm charming.
Worm charming, says Nigel Nelson. The answer is worm charming. Yes, Nigel, absolutely right. He should know.
Yes. You know a few worms in your life.
Yes, worm charming, the 3rd annual worm charming competition in Falmouth saw hundreds of worms being lured out of the ground by vibrations in the earth. Would either of you take part in that?
No.
Nigel's already
I've been out with too many worms.
No.
With loads of them, they just keep following me. True or false? There have been reports of killer whales deliberately, I read this the other day, hitting boats off the coast of Spain. I gave that away.
I think you just got there.
Sorry. I think, no, this is true.
Yeah.
I know it's true too.
Yeah, terrible, isn't it? Terrible story. I mean, yeah, it is true. It's believed that they might be imitating the behaviour of a regular traumatised orca. Poor thing. Right, question 5. Pop sensation Tina Turner unfortunately passed away this week. What was her most streamed song in the UK? Was it A, The Best, B, Acid Queen, or C, What's Love Got to Do with It? Press as I was speaking, said Nigel.
The Best.
Simply the best. Better than
Yes, it was, of course, it was Simply the Best, because she was simply the best. Was she not? We love you, Tina. Well, listen, on today's show, I've been asking you, do you blame Rishi Sunak for the immigration crisis? According to our Twitter poll, 60% of you say yes, 40% of you say no. Thank you so much to my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie, thank you so much.
Love to see you.
And also to senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Nigel, thank you so much. And a huge thank you to you at home for your company as well. It's been a pleasure. I'll be back tomorrow. Joining me live will be Danny Kelly, and the fabulous Christine Hamilton will be back. So thank you so much again. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 3. Make sure you join me. We've got loads still to come as well. Don't forget, we go head-to-head between 3 and 4. I'll leave you with the fabulous weather forecast. Enjoy.
Hello there, I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your evening weather update from the Met Office. As we look forward to the second day of the long weekend, it is looking to stay fine for many of us, all thanks to high pressure that is very much clinging onto much of the UK, keeping things nice and settled. Even this cold front that's been pushing into the northwest is continuing to fade away, and any of the rain that we have seen on it through Saturday is fizzling out, so it'll be more of a cloudy feature as it moves across Northern Ireland into central eastern areas of England. A few mist and fog patches perhaps forming across East Anglia, southeastern areas of England, but elsewhere there'll be a good number of clear intervals. Perhaps a mild night underneath the cloud itself, but where you do have those clear intervals, temperatures dropping down in some rural areas, particularly for higher ground areas of Scotland. So where we have those bright intervals first thing, it should be a lovely start to Sunday. This cloud just coming and going again across central areas might provide some lower stuff across some coastal areas, but generally it will break up into the afternoon. The odd shower possible, but you'll be unlucky to see one of those. Elsewhere, some nice sunny intervals climbing to highs of 22 Celsius in the south. As we head into the evening, the cloud across England will continue to fade away. Some hazy, wispy stuff across Scotland still, but generally a pleasant end to the day. Underneath all the clear spells that develop overnight, though, that will allow those temperatures to drop off much more widely, and so many areas will be getting down into those single-figure marks. Perhaps a touch of frost across northern England, Scotland and northern